Hey, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots, Toyota. Let's go places.
Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
I think it's
Wearing
worth a
over
lot. It's worth a lot. What?
What are you wearing?
Sweater. I'm cold.
I'm going to pull a Fred. I don't care for it.
It's like a Fred McMurray.
You wear what you want to wear, Fred. Don't
Thank
listen
you.
to them.
I'm going to just do me. You know?
So what was up with the hard landing, though?
So he thinks that our pilot
Navy boy.
was trained by Top Gun.
Well, I don't know.
We were
about
also
that.
doing Mach 2 to Buffalo.
And on the way home,
we
it
did
was
a barrel
smooth as-
roll.
The one thing about all of this that's going to piss me off the most.
Okay, well, hold
But
on.
no, I'm not done. Not done.
Hey.
Whoa.
Game was remarkable, not in an outstanding sense, but just it's worth making remarks about.
Yeah, I don't.
What did he call Parcells? The best game day sideline coach in the history of the modern NFL. Remember that?
What?
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Wednesday here at Gillette Stadium. You got a kick out of that, huh, Paul?
Yeah, in retrospect and listening to it back, you did say it right the first time. I just must have been maybe scrolling through my phone or something. I missed some
I missed it
pronouns.
too. Yeah, I
like
missed
the
it too.
he's and the but yeah, you said it clearly the first time.
Yeah.
I just missed it.
Well, I might have added a few things there, but I remember that vividly. that
What was
day.
it again?
The greatest sideline coach in the modern era,
Of
in
the
the history of the modern era, I believe.
Something like that. Yeah.
You could just say modern era without the history part. But
Well, you also can just say coach. Like it was sideline, modern, like.
oh, so it wasn't. I thought it was specifically like
Sideline
when he's
coach.
on the sideline. That's when he's at his best.
Yeah,
You know,
there was a
he's-
lot of qualifiers.
He's calling the
Yeah.
game. He's
Right.
got
And if you,
personnel
if
coming
you
in and out.
recall, like going down the stretch of that '96 season, I think there was a little bit of Robert sort of reaching out, trying to like say, like we can work through this. You can stay.
Yeah.
I think it was like a plea to get him to stay.
Yeah.
Kind of like me at the Giants game in the finale that year, with Al from Everett, the famous Al from Everett, screaming at him, "Tuna, don't leave!" Al from Everett is like on his knees trying to get Bill Parcells to not leave the Patriots.
Oh, and he left. Was that hanging over the team the whole year? Was that? I mean,
No,
was that
No.
late, just
Late.
down the stretch.
Yeah.
Just down.
And
the
was there
stretch.
something specific that kind of reignited it?
Just rumors started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was something contractual. Like he asked for like a year to be taken off his contract or something like that, and there was some kind of a clause in there that was altered, and
Well,
it was late in the year.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's history now, so I can probably say it.
Oh
but
well, probably not.
I remember during the whole controversy, this is when we all worked in Boston, because there was no room at the old stadium, and the Crafts had a floor at one Boston place. And, I would see Robert a lot because, you're all on the same floor, and he pulled out from his desk drawer the contract, but it was one page of the contract with a paragraph blown up and circled. And it was that paragraph that gave him ironclad rights to Parcells no matter what happened.
Right.
And that's how they were able to get the compensation from the Jets. But he showed me that. I was like, okay, you thought ahead.
That's what I was going to say. That's
Yeah.
smart. Well, I mean, obviously he's a billionaire. He's a smart businessman. But
Yeah.
So
well,
that was that.
and here we are.
Yep. All right. So it's Deuce, it's Paul, it's me. Evan will be by
Yeah,
later.
he's out of practice right now.
Practice
He
now.
should be in
We'll,
soon. Yeah,
little
practice is
change to the
12.
schedule.
Little early practice.
Now, what do you
today.
make of that, Fred? The change of the schedule.
Guys are banged up. That's what Bill
Well,
said.
it's a shorter
What was
practice.
that? Yeah, guys are banged.
No, it's a shorter practice like last week because guys are banged up. But what do you think of the altering of the schedule, the timing?
I don't ask why. I just love it because it's a 2:00 locker room. And
That's the answer, Mike. That's the answer. Good.
don't ask
Good.
why. But I don't know. I mean, they're probably just kind of in walk through everything. There's not
I mean,
really
like,
new
what are we
things to
doing?
install.
Yeah,
like
what
you
are we
just kind of like
doing?
this. So everybody got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like
Are we giving up on the team?
if this is the last game, like if this is Bill's last game, right? Like, do you think that in the back of his mind he's like, come up with like the wing tee or something.
That's
crazy.
what I said
Oh,
yesterday. Come out with the wing.
historical
I must have had like a just.
You didn't hear that?
I don't
Oh,
remember.
you don't listen to me anymore.
I
Paul.
don't, and I'm really upset
You
with
don't
myself.
give me flowers.
I'm sorry.
anymore.
I'm sorry. That's just poor
Giving
to me.
flowers. That goes back to that song too.
Correct. I got it.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
So you don't. Bring,
yeah.
you
So
don't bring me flowers.
You
but
know
that's
why? It could be a million reasons why, but
I think tomorrow the schedule's supposed to be back normal. So
Yeah.
I don't know, just
Okay.
to
Yeah, you got
start
that
to
split, the split squad locker room again tomorrow.
No, thank God. That's not a fun thing.
But-
I mean, yeah.
But have we got any updates on the weather?
Yeah, a little
for
bit.
Sunday?
There's two kind of competing models that I looked at.
The European model and the
model. You're right. I don't know what the other one was. There were a couple words.
Patriots.com meteorologist
think
Mike
that-
Dussault is reporting.
I believe the European model was 3 to 6 inches. The other model though was a little bit higher. That was like 6 to 10 maybe.
And what are we
so
hearing? It's supposed to start
at midnight?
Midnight.
so it's
Saturday,
tough to get
going
here?
into Is it tough to get here? Probably tough to get out. I know it's. If it was anything but the last game, I would be like dreading it. I mean, I'm sure people are dreading it, but I don't know. I live close, so that's an advantage. But it's just I want to see what the atmosphere is going to be like. I've never been to a Patriots snow game in my life, so
Oh, Mike,
it'll be
Fred
nice
and I
to
could
sit
tell
up
stories.
in the warmth of the press box, just looking down on the poor plebes down there, like having to struggle.
So you'll get to look down on the Jets the way that Andy and I looked down at the Arizona Cardinals in
Oh,
08
boy.
and said, they're going to get blown out.
Oh, I know. They're going to get out the
Because you
big.
could
Oh,
just
hell
tell
no.
they don't want to be here, even though the
No.
Jets play in a, obviously a similar
Yeah,
climate.
but they're done. And I mean, imagine having to go on the road and then
Yeah,
I mean, it's
last
probably
game
gonna
of
be
the
difficult.
year, buses double parked.
Did they ever do stuff with weather like this? I mean, are there any precautionary measures employed? I mean, there was obviously the 09 game was. I mean, but that wasn't like plowable snow, was it? That
well,
was
you mean
just
if,
more
if
a
you
little
got like a major blizzard where
blizzard
you got like
Saturday
20
night,
inches?
yeah.
I mean, the NFL has moved games around
Yeah.
in recent years.
Well, as of yesterday, down on the Cape, when it's usually a little warmer,
Yeah.
it was chance of rain on Sunday. Now they've changed it to a chance of snow.
Yeah.
So that tells you something right there.
Everything I saw seems like snow is happening. but
I'm
it's
sure
just a
PBD will
question
get
of-
more than
anyway.
everybody else
Yeah.
in the area.
I know. Well, it's a wide range, so I'm sure. I can't wait. People are probably gonna ask Bill about it on Friday, and I'll be like, I don't know. He always like plays those things. Well, sometimes they say it's gonna be foot. There's nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to leave the house at 4 in the morning.
Probably affected.
Get your snowshoes. Get your snow skis. Your cross
Yeah.
country skis in the back of your car in case you get stuck.
I mean, the good thing is it is a Sunday, so the roads won't be as crowded.
yeah.
Yeah. Tell my wife I'll shovel when I get home. Just stay in the house.
Did you ever sit in a snow game, Paul, as a Patriots fan?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Had
Didn't have.
some rain and cold, but never snow.
Yeah, I got pretty lucky. I didn't really even I had some windy games, but I didn't have like a lot of rain or snow.
Mud.
Mud.
A lot of mud.
The old stadium, right?
Yeah.
It's like surrounded by mud.
Yeah. All right. So Jets. I mean,
Is that a
I don't
question?
know.
Is
Yeah,
it
I don't know
Jets?
if we got
Jets?
really anything. Bill didn't really provide anything today.
Quinton Williams is good. Garrett Wilson is good.
Yeah.
Breece Hall's good. That's about it. Those guys were highlighted.
Yeah, and I mean they have some talent, and I do think, for the most part, they've competed, but they just turn the ball over too much, and
they lead the league, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
32 I think giveaways, and it's really hard. Like just think about what the Patriots defense went through on Sunday. That has been the norm for the Jets,
Yeah.
and there's still. I mean, their defense is still pretty good, but it's just hard to keep teams down when you're constantly giving them short fields and extra possessions.
Yeah, I was I do my next gen stats, which I think statistically the Jets defense shapes up a lot more just on paper like you'd want a good defense to shape up. They're 5th in pressure rate, but they're 31st in blitz rate. So they don't blitz, they get pressure. Contrast that though with the Patriots, who are 9th in blitz rate and 26th in pressure. So it's just a little bit of a contrast between the two teams and kind of their style. The Patriots, we've given them a lot of credit, but I still continue to say, 18th in pass EPA. This Jets defense is probably better than this Patriots defense.
I wonder though, like if you look at the way Barmore's been playing down the stretch, if he had played that way throughout,
Yeah.
if that pressure rate would go up, because he's he's back there a lot.
Yeah, that's a good question of how much they've risen. I mean, they haven't really gone too crazy with the blitzing, but it's, I don't know. I think that there's work to be done on the defensive side of the ball, as much as that's going to get ignored and probably fall by the wayside with a lot of our offseason discussion, and rightly so. I mean, I think me and everyone were saying, like, look, like the first 2 picks of the draft have to go to the offensive side of the ball, at least, right? Like, it's just hard to make a case for any real position unless you want to talk to me about a real good pass rusher. But otherwise,
and that's the only way I would have anything before day 3 go on defense, is if you had a chance for a pass rusher that can impact the game
off the edge. Yeah,
obviously you're going to get defensive backs later in the draft. You always do. So I agree with you, Mike. I think you have to devote this draft to offense.
It seems among the Patriots wise guys that the play is Harrison, trade back up and get Penix.
Yeah,
that's the play.
So I have a question for that.
Yes.
No, and I don't necessarily mind the rationale, but what do you have to trade up with after you take number 3?
I mean, all the talk yesterday, not to derail your question.
How far up do you have to trade in?
Just depends on who you know, that's a great question. I don't have the answer, but a lot of people think that Penix is rising up the board.
Yeah. Well, just kind of seeing yesterday, there was speculation on what Chicago might get if they were to trade it. They were to keep Fields, and just talking about Chicago, kind of sitting in the driver's seat, and it was huge. I mean, it's a couple first rounders, like it's
I saw a 2nd or 3rd round pick, Jeremy Fowler.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe we read different things, but I don't know. It's just the more.
Wait. I think you might be talking about different things. You're talking about if
somebody wanted to
if
trade
somebody
up to
wants
the first
to trade
overall
into the
pick.
first round, you're talking about Fields, right?
I think I had I had an aneurysm, I think.
Oh, no.
That's exactly what he said, and somehow I thought you were talking about what it would take to get Fields.
Right.
That's totally my fault. Totally my bad. I don't know what I'm doing.
You scare me. Like, just a couple. There's a 2nd and a 3rd to get to the first overall pick.
Sign
me up tomorrow.
And you just let him go.
No, I didn't.
No, he was like, we read different things.
Right.
Because basically we're talking about 2 totally different things.
It all depends. Like, who is the team trying to get to the first? If they're lower, they're going to have to give up more.
Yeah.
If it's like us in the 3rd slot, we wouldn't have to give up as much.
Yeah. No, it's great to be Chicago right now, but I don't know. I continue that this is a really deep draft with receivers, and to put all your eggs in a basket of not only taking Marvin Harrison, but making no strides to protect your quarterback, and then just assuming you're going to get Michael Penix, who, I mean, God, after that performance the other night and whatever he does in this national championship game, is it hard to imagine that some team's going to trade up and take him by the mid-first round? So it's
that was my point. Like if it's like one of those deals where you have like the 3rd or 4th pick of the 2nd round, and you want to get to like 29, absolutely you can do that. But what if you need to get to 15 to get Penix?
And what did Kenny Pickett go at? Like
18.
I mean, Michael Penix looks way better to me than Kenny Pickett. So I don't know. It's complicated. I admittedly I've started looking at some of these guys. I'm looking at the tackles, and I think that remains something. As much as people are going to be kicking and screaming about it, it's something that
I know.
You just even to take
it's
a
one
quarterback.
Of those things like it's not sexy, but we really need it.
No, and I mean, I going in on Olu Fashanu for a second. Like, I didn't really start with his film. I just started watching him, like interviews, and what kind of guy he is, and learning about him, and like. You need a foundational player. You need a kind of guy who, I don't want to say he's Matthew Slater, but I mean, super smart, super, intelligent, kind of got everything together, went back to try to win. There's a lot of things to like about that guy. And as much as people would hate it, it's just hard to say we're going to draft a quarterback. We're not going to do anything to protect him, though. I mean, we know what that formula kind of looks like. I hesitate on Marvin Harrison. Those moves to me seem like we just need, like, it'd be a great move for Chicago, right? Like, if they really believe in Fields,
right?
Get a guy. He's close. He's played in these kind of environments. Like, so that to me makes sense.
I think it's setting up for them perfectly. Like because I think it's worth the risk, because I think the reward is huge. If Fields is actually starting to get it, and you stick with him. And you draft Marvin Harrison, and then your other pick is going to be like 10 or 11, and you get a tackle.
Yeah, boom. And if the Patriots were in that position,
or or help your defense, like you get a high pick.
But look at Houston last year, similar thing, right? Like, get 2 high round picks. You
hit on both of them, and all of a sudden you're not that far away from at least being competitive. And they have been. What are they? 6-5 in their last 11, something like that.
Oh, jeez, Paul, I don't know.
Chicago.
6-5.
Now his record as a starter is terrible. Do you guys not follow the league at all?
I don't know. I just don't know their last 11 games.
Evan,
Like,
sit
I
down
think
so
they
I
won
can talk football with somebody, please.
I'm just watching Evan try to adjust his seat because he's going lower instead of higher.
Evan, please sit down and get on the mic. I need somebody to talk about the NFL at large.
What are the Bears in their last 11, Evan? You got that?
Well, my point is I mean, he still has a terrible record as a starter.
Yeah.
It's like way below 500. But lately, like the last, 8-10 games, he's been better and they've been winning since he came back from his injury. Now, it might just be a soft spot in the schedule. It could be as simple as that. Now, I look at the 2 Detroit games. I don't know. Detroit's pretty good, and they should have beaten them twice.
Yeah.
They split the 2 games. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about Penix. I think, Evan, you said Senior Bowl for him yesterday.
Yeah.
So Jim
And-
Nagy teased on Monday night during the game.
Yeah.
Oh, wait till you see him in Mobile.
Yeah, so
but they
he's-
don't have like a formal announcement like
Yeah.
they did with Bo Nix.
Yeah,
this
Bo Nix
morning.
had the formal announcement. So
Yeah.
that's 2 of the quarterbacks that are a little bit further down that'll be at the Senior Bowl and,
Yep.
we'll be there.
Yeah.
Well, not me, but
You're coming? No. Oh, don't get my hopes up.
Evan
like that.
Evan will be there.
Southern Alabama.
It's going to be that I'm really looking forward to seeing Nix, because I think there's a mixed bag on him right now of some people love him, some people hate him. So it'd be good to see him in a different environment, because that Oregon offense is very unique and very simple in a lot of ways. Like Justin Herbert, I think, was held back a lot by that offense in college too. So it'd be cool to see him in like a pro style offense and how he operates down there.
So Evan's here.
Oh, hi, by the way.
Evan has returned from practice. Evan has returned from practice. Yeah, Evan has returned from practice. What was the mood? Who wasn't there? What did he see?
All right, Evan, a little bit of a change in schedule today.
Yeah, a little bit of a change, a 12 o'clock practice, like the good old days, going back to the 11:30 bill, 12 o'clock practice, missed that. Anyways,
Yeah, maybe it'll come back next year.
we have 2 absences at Patriots practice today. Miles Bryant, who I don't know why he was not at practice, maybe an illness or something like that. Wasn't hurt during the game, to my knowledge, so who knows. And no Trent Brown, who I think is just...
I think we might have seen the last of him.
We might have sent him to pasture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be time on that one. It'll be interesting to see when we go into the locker room. Does he have a locker? Is his locker cleaned out? What's the
cobwebs
situation?
in
And
Moved out.
with that?
Were they outside
They were outside,
and not in pads?
not in pads. It's going to be a really light practice
And
today.
why do you think that is?
There's a lot of guys banged up, according to the head coach. I think there's also this. I mean, what are they really playing for on Sunday in this game? I think there's a lot of.
What about finish strong? Whatever happened to that? you know?
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, they did the same thing last week, a lighter practice
Yeah.
on Wednesday. Tomorrow will be like a full schedule down here, like it usually is on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
Full practice, 4:30 locker room. So tomorrow will be normal. I think they're going easy on the guys a little bit this late in the year.
Yeah. So it's true. They probably are banged up, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think there are a lot of guys even that are banged up that aren't necessarily front and center on the injury report every single week. Just bumps and bruises of the season. Thinking about the center, for example, David Andrews, who's started every game and is almost played every single snap, I think, for them on offense this year. Guys like that, I think, are pretty much tapped out at this point.
Okay. How was the media contingency
A lot of media, I would say, today. I think
or contingent?
Belichick coming in this morning, and he's getting the questions, and of course he's got all the deflections to we're just focused on the Jets. Not even just about his future, but futures of people on the team, other players on the team, obviously Bill O'Brien, like how his performance was this year, like all that kind of stuff. And a lot of it is just we're just focused on the Jets right now.
Have national guys started showing up on the scene yet?
Not yet. No.
No national guys.
No, and I think the snowstorm might scare him off on Sunday.
No,
so.
that's true. They might not
Yeah.
be tough
Might
to
not
get
be.
here. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the mood of the team.
Oh.
I gotta admit, it didn't start off well. We walked into practice, and
Fight?
maybe we were like 30 seconds early into practice because the music wasn't playing yet, and everybody was just kind of standing around, and it was kind of bizarre. And Barth and I were just like,
Everybody looked at, shh, they're coming.
Is everything all right?
Here we go.
Then the music started and the stretching started, and it felt like a normal practice. But I think that probably happens every practice. They just open the door, maybe.
They'll just sit there and stare at each other in silence on the field.
Oh, but wait,
It's like
they were
Everett High
inside?
circa 1985.
Well, what do you say? Open the door.
Of the gate.
Oh, the gate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Lower fields.
Goes
Lower.
the gatekeeper.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Are
All right.
you a god?
Yeah.
You say yes.
All right. Well, that's your practice report.
That's it. That's
For
all
what
we
it's
got.
worth. Yeah.
I have a question. What is the mechanics of the day after, like the locker cleaner? I'm trying to remember.
There's a mandatory
Yeah.
availability.
The locker room will be open on
in
Monday.
person.
In person.
Yep.
In person, Bill. Would Bill be in person?
No, he usually
So-
does it on Zoom the next morning.
And that would also, he wouldn't necessarily have a press. Like if you're
right.
asking the
that's
question,
that's what I'm asking.
he
Like,
wouldn't
if things were
necessarily
brewing-
have a press conference.
Right.
Now I can tell you, from being around when Pete Carroll's last day, the announcement went out, and he did not do a press conference from inside the old Patriots club. Do you remember this, Freddie? I think you were there. It was in the parking lot,
Yeah.
and they had makeshift they had like a mic
Did he have
stand.
Did he have a box in his hand? Like
People literally were like putting their microphones up, and
That's
they were
wild.
taping them all together, and there was a big group of us around him, and he talked for a little bit, and
Some of the fraud media that
Oh,
were
God.
killing him. Just see Pete. Bye, Pete.
best of luck, Pete.
Yeah.
Like doing the swim move around people to get in there so they could
Get a
shake his
hug.
hand, and I was like,
What?
yeah, all right, you've been killing him for like 3 months
Why was it in the parking lot, Fred?
because
Is it we
he
just
was
don't have
no
the space
longer
in
the head coach of the
He's
Patriots.
just like his key card didn't work anymore. He can't
Yeah.
get in.
literally.
Like, sorry.
That's what I said. Like the box with the stapler. That's our stapler. Like,
And wasn't that the day that we saw Robert Kraft drive off with Bill Belichick? Remember that?
I do not
Oh,
remember that.
Yeah.
jeez. The body's not
that
even-
happened?
Yeah,
Cold,
Bill,
yeah.
Robert, and Bill had a conversation in the car, and they drove away together.
Based on my
That's
last
wild.
2 shows, I'm just going to say, yeah.
No, that happened.
I have no recollection
That
of
happened.
that at all.
That's wild.
They had a
It's like a
conversation.
little red convertible.
And,
that
and
peeled out
I
of
think
a-
at the time, Robert said, I am or was considering bringing you on as head coach, but it's too close to. I need the separation.
Yeah.
I thought it will be interesting.
Wait a minute. Do you think he had a conversation with Belichick about wanting to hire him, but he thought it was too
You
close?
said you were someone I'm considering, but it's too close.
So this was when Parcells left.
yes.
Okay, I'm talking about when Carroll left,
Oh.
which is why I had no recollection of it because
Yeah, you're
I
right.
wasn't there when
Yeah,
Parcells
you're right.
left. I was there when Carroll
I'm
left.
thinking
Okay.
96. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
97.
okay.
So
yeah.
that was when he drove off with Bill?
Yeah.
Was it
after Parcells.
Because that was weird. I had no
Right.
recollection of
Just
that.
No, after Parcells.
You have like the paparazzi photo.
right. They're like,
he drove off with Bill.
Got like a hat on.
Yeah.
After Carroll, like Paul said, it was in the parking lot, and it was kind of weird.
It was
I bet.
it was a different, surreal kind of
That is bizarre.
environment. And I think he wanted to talk. Like, he actually made a big deal. He goes, I just want to go around and say hey to a bunch of, typical Pete.
Totally.
Yeah. Just want to say hey to Mike and Evan, some of the fellas. I think he just wanted to do it. I think he just is a good guy. And I think he kind of felt like, I want to say goodbye to all these people that have been here. He was too nice.
Yeah.
He was too, and some of these guys took advantage of him.
And I think that's all he wanted to do. Now, he wasn't the coach of the Patriots anymore, so they're not going to have the press conference on, like inside the Patriots offices and whatnot. So it was weird.
So guys like Borges would take it, all right, $5 million linebacker. Remember that?
Yeah. It's BS.
Yeah.
Only he didn't say BS.
Right.
And then Pete goes, "Oh, we're swearing now."
Yeah. But you don't do that's disrespectful.
Yeah.
I thought.
Do you think
Ronnie was disrespectful that day?
Do you think there might be a similar situation this time around where Bill needs some separation before he could hire someone from this staff, like a Gerard? Like, do you think he would need that separation again to
Who?
get
Robert?
Well, you know how he had Bill in house and he felt like he needed to get Parcells out and
Possibly.
but it's
that's how I feel, but a lot of people disagree with
No,
that.
and I've heard, he wants the continuity.
Yeah.
Like, it's not all bad, so why blow it up?
Yeah, it's
Who
hard.
knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
That Monday morning is going to be very telling because
Oh, yeah.
Bill usually starts talking about this season that we're currently in the past tense.
Correct.
On Monday
we're-
morning.
right. We can't even talk about it anymore.
Right,
Like,
so
it's like,
he'll-
well, that's
he'll-
in the past now.
we won the last game last year.
Right, so he'll start calling this year last year, even though last year just ended 12 minutes ago or whatever. And he
That
also
playoff game was the epitome of that.
Yeah, and he'll also talk about the offseason and kind of things moving forward and all that kind of stuff. And if he's not going to be here, then it's going to be odd to get those questions of like, oh, so what do you think you're going to do with the second overall pick? And he's, not the one making it. It's just going to be a weird dynamic.
I wonder if it's scheduled and then we get like, actually, it's not going to happen this morning. Like one of those kind of updates.
Right. It is a great point, Mike, because I don't know how fast it's going to happen if it happens. And if it's not done, do you just let him have his regular
well, you also
conference
have to
call Monday morning?
right? Because you also have to worry about raising eyebrows in the media of
Because that'll happen.
we always do this every Monday morning after the game is over, after the season's over. Like, why not this week? And why not this year?
But if he does it, and they're going to say, "Well, I guess Bill's staying,"
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
kind
all
of wait
coming
and
to
see
a
what
head
happens.
here, folks.
It's going to be a very interesting weekend. All right, 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket hotline. Web
So
radio
probably shouldn't
at
take Monday off.
Patriots.com is the email address. Anything else we want to bring up? No?
I think so.
Before, Evan, when you walked in, we were talking a little bit draft.
oh yeah,
And
I never talk about the draft.
no.
It's when the teams take the players.
Yeah, can you explain it to me like I'm
So
five?
one of the things we were talking
Yeah, it's a great situation.
if they do decide to move on from Fields, do you think they would want to make that trade prior to the draft, or can they wait till after the draft and then trade him?
I don't know.
I think it'd be better for them to do it before the draft.
Yeah.
Because they would get picks.
Right.
But also to let everybody know, like I can bump up his value by saying I don't have to take Caleb Williams. I can just keep if
Yeah.
you guys are calling me looking to make a trade.
Leverage.
Yeah. I mean, I think people would, rightly say, well, if he's listening to me talk about a potential trade, he's planning on taking Caleb Williams.
You also have a lot of teams will draft quarterbacks that maybe would have been looking at Justin Fields, and now that you take those teams out of the equation, even if they draft somebody on day 2, they really like the guy. If it's Bo Nix or Penix or something like that, then all of a sudden that team is off the board. But I feel like the Bears, I have already just put Marvin Harrison Jr. in a Bears uniform, and wherever they pick him in the top 3 or 4 picks, I don't know, but I just feel like that's where that pick is going to be. Whether it's, I would think that they would probably trade no lower than 3 because they don't want to risk losing him at that point.
That's a good point.
So maybe it's, I would say the Commanders are probably a good candidate to trade to 1. New owner, probably new GM, new leadership there, wanting to make a splash, and I could see them trading up to 1.
That makes that makes a lot of sense. Washington would be, I think, a logical partner.
I like it just because you I know what Fields is. I mean, we don't know what Fields is, but I think you've already kind of spent that first round pick on him, and you've put some time and effort into him. And even if he's not the guy, at least then you say, well, we put the pieces around him. We gave him Harrison.
Right.
Maybe we drafted one of these tackles, and if it doesn't work, you still have other guys. Like if you just immediately blow him up and go to another quarterback, who's to say the same thing isn't going to happen again? For all his warts, at least you kind of know what he is, and I like that method.
You saw it through to the end.
Yeah, right.
Like if it doesn't get any better next year, at least you gave him the resources, you gave him the time.
Yep.
You stuck with the same coach, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Now it's obviously bad for the Bears if that happens, but at least you don't have any. Did we pull the plug too soon?
And at least you feel like you've got a favorable situation for whoever you got to get next time. And if it didn't work, you're going to be picking up high again, and
that's my whole thing with Chicago is if it doesn't work with Justin Fields, then you're going to be picking in the top 10 again next year anyway. So then just draft the quarterback then. So.
And you might get a similar situation. I do think the quarterback thing that we talk. The more we talk about Penix and Nix and McCarthy, and I do think that the COVID stuff is starting to show in the depth of some of these positions, and you do have more options at quarterback than you probably would in a normal year, right? Because so many of these guys, like Penix, is 6 years.
Yeah.
Nick's is 6 years, I think, too.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get away from
Daniels
this?
is 6 years.
Are we going to get away from
Yeah,
this?
well, eventually
Some
it's
of-
going to cycle out.
yeah, that's
some
It's
of
going
it-
to take a while.
feels forever.
But the transfer portal is also such a huge
Yeah,
factor.
that's a part of it, too.
Because these guys, if Penix never transfers to Washington, then we're probably not having the conversation of him being even in the first round because he doesn't have the platform to showcase himself in the college football playoff and the
Right.
Pac-12 championship. But we're at this point now with these guys where they go 3 years at Auburn and then Bo Nix transfers to Oregon and plays a couple years at Oregon and then goes to the NFL.
Yeah.
So I think in some ways, though, we were talking about this a little bit off the air. Like, I think it's good because these quarterbacks that come in super young and super green are just getting thrown into the fire and they're raw. They don't have the
Not enough starts.
especially from a mental standpoint. They just don't have the IQ to be an NFL starter right out of the gate. And I wonder if maybe some of these 5-6 year college players might be starting from a higher point of development that they can step in and be a little bit better out of the gate. Like I just think about all these guys that have flopped recently. A lot of them were underclassmen or didn't play a ton of football. Like a Mac Jones who had 1 year as a starter, at Alabama. Like maybe he just wasn't ready. Maybe he just wasn't mature enough.
Yeah.
To do it.
And on the flip side, so what if he's 24? I mean, these guys play now to 35, 36, 37. What are we worried about anything beyond that? You know?
It doesn't really overly concern me. I mean, it seems like it's like a high class problem to worry about. Like, well, what if he's great? We've only got 9 years of him instead of 10.
So what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think quarterback is a position, and I made Evan very happy after the show yesterday.
Because this is grinding my gears.
I think
Paul.
a quarterback is a position that would matter the least. And you could make an argument it's better for the experience, and the guy comes in a little bit closer. And what's the difference if you, like you said, Fred? If the guy works out, you got him for at least a decade.
Yeah.
How much more do you want?
And just a little more mature, too, like to take over the leadership of a team and a bunch of, NFL veteran guys. That's a tough place, tough bunch of personalities to kind of command a presence. And, a kid like Penix who's done it at a couple programs, I mean, he seems like he could handle it.
That's what excites me maybe the most about Penix. Like obviously a lot of these guys have really good physical tools. They can all throw, they can all move around, like those types of things. But from what you hear from Washington, like he's the alpha in the room. And there's a lot of really good players on that Washington team. It's not Adunze, it's not some of those other guys that are going to be first round top 50 prospects. When it's Penix who's the leader of that Washington team, and I think that's what you need at that position.
Totally.
Do you think this is a year, sticking to the draft, that misinformation will come into play even more? Like, a team who's really looking for a quarterback kind of makes it known that they're looking at Harrison to kind of force Chicago's hand, or,
I think it always happens to some degree. I mean, I always think like you get to the combine and the medicals is a big thing. So like you could see with Penix, Tom Pelissero comes, teams were a little bit shaken by, when they had their doctors check him out. Like things like that could be put out there to try to push him down a little bit. But I think that stuff happens every year. I don't know why this year would be necessarily unique. Small wrists.
Small hands.
I do wonder about the Cardinals because it's different regime, but they've done this before where they say, Josh Rosen is our guy,
Yeah,
and
that's Cannon said,
well, they just
Kyler's
did
our guy.
that,
right?
Yeah.
And
I think that's why you were bringing it up.
I just don't believe 100% until they don't turn in a card with the quarterback's name that the Cardinals are all in on Kyler and not taking quarterback.
Is Caleb Williams not going to be the first overall pick?
I'd be shocked if he wasn't.
Because, I heard just today on one of Paul's show another Caleb Williams story that, his team USC in their bowl game said, now we're a team. And meaning that, he's not there.
That he was,
and that he had a birthday party and none of his teammates showed up.
You didn't hear that.
I did hear that.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
I did. I heard that on one of Paul's shows this morning.
That's
So it sounds like something Joe Murray would say.
I think it might have been him.
This was like Josh Rosen
Bo
had
Callahan.
a lot of the same things coming out. He had like a hot tub in his dorm room and stuff
right.
like that. And that was the book on him.
Yeah,
Spoiled rich.
Josh
What,
Rosen.
what was the problem with Josh Rosen?
He stunk.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams doesn't stink.
All right.
No. but he seems like a USC.
Paul's
LA.
going to go down with Caleb Williams.
No, I just like if you want to give me
Because
reasons.
everyone's saying this.
It's a
This
good.
is
It's
Paul,
a good. It's a
contrarian
good.
Paul.
No.
It's a good prospect to go down.
First of all,
with
not
if you're
everybody's saying it. Everybody's saying he's going to be the number 1 overall pick.
No, I think the
Like
credit,
that's what people are saying. But but my point is, if you want to tell me that Caleb Williams doesn't do X, Y, and Z, and for that reason I don't think he's going to pan out, I'll listen to that all day. I am by as far away from one of those experts as you can get. I just don't want to hear he cried after they lost a game, so he's emotionally
Do you
unstable.
think that leadership is any part of being a quarterback?
Yeah, I think if you listen to, and I can give you a story that was written in the LA Times from late November, he is an exceptional leader and considered to be a great teammate by his teammates. And I can show you the old clip from a guy if you want that. But again, if you want to tell me he can't do things, I'll listen to that. Just don't tell me that he's not going to succeed because he cried to his mother after a game.
Yeah, I
Like
think
that's not a valid reason to be down on a guy.
Yeah, the only football reason to be down on Caleb Williams is that he holds the ball forever.
And he's a little small.
Yeah,
Like,
like-
and I think that stuff to me, that would cause me to take a second look.
Yeah, he's not as small as like Bryce Young or
No.
or
He's
certainly
like 6'1",
Yeah,
right?
but I would just he holds the ball for a while. He plays the Mahomes style game, and Mahomes it translated for Mahomes, but is it going to translate for the next guy is the big question. You know, there's only one Steph Curry, right? Like not everybody's going to shoot threes like that. It's kind of the same thing with Patrick Mahomes comparison with Caleb. So is he good enough that he can run around, hold the ball forever? You know, a bunch of turnovers in college, bunch of fumbles, strip sacks, things
That
like
would cause
that.
me pause.
Yeah.
Like that's an evaluation of his skill set and whether or not it translates to the NFL.
Yep.
I think Patrick Mahomes is a lot bigger than people think.
Oh, he's a big guy.
So I think that when you run around and you take some hits, you're able to withstand them. And I think that's part of the Bryce Young issue right now, is he's so small he can't play that way.
Yeah.
He can't run around and take hits because he'll break.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that might be a concern with Caleb Williams. If
Yeah.
he's holding the ball so long, you know, and now he's subjecting himself to hits, I don't think he's got that frame necessarily to withstand that.
Yeah, he's not an anticipatory thrower from the pocket. Like, he's not going to sit there and see it happen before it happens and make throws like that. He's a guy that's going to want to move around and is going to want to create plays with his legs and extend plays and things like that. If you, like, harness that and put it in the right offense, like the Chiefs have done with Mahomes, it can be electric. But it could also be, he could be a fumble machine like he has been at times at USC.
He seems to me kind of like a representative of this new age of college player that is used to, he's got money, he's in advertisements, you know, like he is, I mean, and of course Matt Leinart was the face of their franchise, but it just seems even more so to me with him. Like he seems
it's all changed.
everywhere. I mean, I'm seeing ads already on TV with him. It's just, it's interesting how those things are going to play out as we continue to go down this road of athletes who are coming into the NFL. They're used to being the face of an organization. And, you know, what does it look like if it's not the same? Like, what if he goes to a small market team and he's, you know, not getting that kind of, I don't want to say attention necessarily, but he's just not the, you know, the same kind of juice that he had at USC. And I think it's just the start of it, really. I mean, this is going to be, you know, I mean, are there other quarterbacks that have come out that have been kind of this high profile? He feels like he's already kind of made it, you know,
Well,
to me.
I wonder, like, you know, it's back in the day, but when Elway or Eli Manning famously refused to go to the team that drafted them,
Yeah.
you know, when they got to their team, you know, did people kind of look at them like,
I just-
who do you think
yeah,
you are?
I'll,
You know?
yeah, I'll bet you there were.
Yeah, I just wonder how much fire there is with that smoke of his dad and, you know, these like kind of high maintenance, those kind of things. Like,
But I
is,
think
is there
that's-
true smoke that can affect his play on the field there?
I
Like,
don't
that's
want
what
that smoke.
I think I think Mike brings up a really good point about it, because I do think that's where it's going. Like, you're not going to get these guys that, like, and I think that rubs a lot of people like my age the wrong way, and I think that's where you're seeing some of the blowback is this, the Heisman Trophy winner, he's on the Heisman commercial, he's still in college. It's a different landscape.
Yeah.
And you and I don't have to like it. I don't particularly like it, but that's the way it is. And I think you have to accept, I think all of these guys are going to come out of school now with a degree of that, you know, as they enter the league. 'Cause
Right. Well, I think that's a great point too,
it's a
Paul.
different spot.
Because even though you don't see these guys, a lot of them now, they're not coming to the NFL because they need money now, right? Like a lot of guys would come into the NFL completely motivated by, I got to buy my mom a house, you know, or those. They don't. There isn't as much of that anymore. It doesn't seem like. It seems like guys are already, you know, having these sponsorship deals, and they're I wonder overall if you're going to get as many hungry
Dude, imagine
football
how much
players.
money me and you could have made.
I know, Holy Cross.
The NIL.
The Holy Cross. I'm sure they're rolling in the NIL money at Holy Cross hockey, but
Could have gotten gift certificates to T. Anthony's.
Yeah.
T's
It's a good litmus test of the league because I think between Caleb's, whatever you want to call it, attitude, personality, and a guy like Daniels' skill set, like Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson went 32nd overall in his draft just 5 years ago with a very similar skill set as Jaden Daniels. So have they changed that way too? Like have we changed in the sense that a guy that's probably better as a runner than a thrower, but he's dynamic at both, is that good enough now to be a top 10 pick or a top 5 pick versus Lamar Jackson, who was a better prospect in a lot of ways than Jaden Daniels, barely made it in the first round, let alone a top 10 pick.
How do you feel like outside of Lamar Jackson, the recent sample size of guys that kind of fit Jaden Daniels' profile of the success they've had in the league? Like, what does that point towards?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think a guy like Justin Fields, I think is a little different because Justin Fields didn't run a ton in college because he was a pretty good thrower, but then has had to run more in the league because he's not advanced enough as a thrower to just be a thrower like he was at Ohio State. So I don't know if there's a guy that I think Daniels is the most dynamic runner that's come through the draft since Lamar. And I don't know if there's another great current comp in the NFL.
But Cunningham.
But if you're a Jaden Daniels person and you are the team that takes Jaden Daniels, I don't see how you build an offense around him unless it's like Baltimore. It's it's going to have to be like that for him to.
You do think that?
Yeah, I really do. I think that sure you could run a spread and have him do it maybe a little bit less. You're not going to be running real quarterback runs
don't
like
you
Baltimore
think that Daniels is a little better thrower coming out of college than Lamar was?
I've heard that. I always thought that Lamar was a really good thrower and was kind of underrated as a passer coming out of college.
He's got a funny motion. I think that threw a lot of people off.
Yeah.
He had some mechanical issues that he had to work on for sure. But in terms of seeing the field and processing and things like that, I think Lamar kind of got a stereotype rap coming out. But maybe that's changed now. Jaden Daniels, maybe they realize that was archaic and thinking that way, and now it's different.
Yeah, and I think there are guys, but I agree with the way Evan said it. No one really runs like Lamar. That's a different level of like Stroud. I think he's more of a passer than a runner, but he can obviously extend plays and make plays with his legs. So I think there have been some guys that have had success doing it, different ways. Josh Allen certainly, is that kind of a, he uses his legs a lot, and I don't think if he just dropped back in the pocket and had to throw the ball 35 times every game from between the tackles and did never run, I don't think you'd look at him the same way.
No.
Yeah,
he needs that other element.
And I think that's what the Patriots defense did to him on Sunday, was kind of made him sit there, hit the second and third read in rhythm from the pocket, and he struggled. So I actually am starting, the more of Drake May that I've watched, I kind of see a little bit of Josh Allen in him.
Yeah, I said that on the radio and got laughed at the other day.
No, I think it's, I originally had the Herbert comparison that everybody else has, but Herbert, I think, is a little bit more under control with the way that he plays. I think Drake May's got a little bit of that Josh Allen.
I saw him throw a lefty pass at one point too. He's fun, and if you like that kind of thing.
Trevor from Kansas City writes in, I'm so glad people have finally watched Michael Penix, so they realize if he didn't have medical concerns, he'd be in discussion for the first overall pick. I'd still love to take him even top 5 if there's no long-term structural damage. I think what I learned most from the Mac experiment isn't that you need to be a physical specimen to succeed, but you have to have mental toughness. There's no QB in this draft that has shown more mental toughness than Michael Penix Jr. Go get him.
That's a good, it's a fair point. The guy's come back from 17 injuries and transfers and has that team let's see what he looks like against Michigan's defense, the best defense in college football. I kind of wish that they were playing Alabama just because then you could see him against Saban, but at the same time, Michigan's defense is probably the best statistical defense in college football this year. So let's see how he looks. If he tears up Michigan's defense like he did to Texas, then
he's going to fall in the hole between where the Patriots are and between the first and second pick.
I agree on the mental toughness with Penix wholeheartedly, but I have to be a little snarky. I just like to thank the readers for introducing us to the best players coming out of the draft every year.
Well, that's what Evan said
always
yesterday.
nice.
He came in, he was just like, "Oh, everyone watches Penix, and now everybody's a fan."
I'm glad someone got to watch Michael Penix.
Right.
Like I didn't see him play like 10 games at Indiana 4 years ago.
I know.
Ian from the
Ty
UK.
Freifogel, by the way, was the receiver that I was trying to remember.
Nice poll, Paul.
Ian from the UK, would drafting Penix in the second round be similar to drafting Gronk in terms of risk reward? I get Penix has more injury issues.
Way less
but,
of a risk.
But is it a chance worth taking depending on what we want to do with our...
Yeah, that would be way
with their
way
one pick.
less of a risk than Gronk. Gronk did not play his last year
Yeah.
in college.
And a back injury too.
There was a chance that he was not ever going to be able to be physically, fit enough to play in the NFL.
Plus, he seems like a meatball, right? Like he fell asleep in his visit. I mean, there
That's
was a
so
risky
wild
pick.
to
Like
think that
Michael
he-
Penix isn't falling asleep in his meeting.
That he was that injured and then is the greatest tight end of all time.
Yeah.
Like to go like from,
Like that just as easily could have been he went to training camp, blocked a guy,
And
hurt
that was
his
it.
back, and never played.
Yeah.
Like that just as easily could have unfolded that way.
Especially with how they protect quarterbacks in the league now too. Like I just Penix, his injuries are bad, but it's been a couple years since he's been hurt, and he's been healthy at Washington.
Yeah.
And
You guys,
I don't know.
One of you two said it yesterday. That's going to be the big thing at the combine, his medicals,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think the previous emailer pointed out, like, is it something that they think is structural and it's going to be more like, because I don't know necessarily that you tear your ACL and that means that you're more susceptible to do it again. Now, it definitely strips you a little of your burst in athleticism and all that, but that I don't know if that necessarily makes you a bigger injury risk moving forward.
Yeah, because at Indiana he was a runner. Like at Indiana he could run around, and he doesn't run as nearly as well. Now he can still move off his spot.
He moves the pocket. Yeah, he moves in the pocket very well.
but he doesn't. He was a guy that would have added like designed runs on top of what he was now at Indiana. But
he's kind of a power runner in Indiana too. They used to use him like Tebow.
Maybe he's gotten better as a passer because he's lost.
Maybe that was the
I don't
problem.
know.
and that was the problem.
Yeah.
And
Just
he
run
tore
him
it-
over.
And he tore his ACL twice.
AJ in the Bay Area, does picking a quarterback in the top 5 and using one of the subsequent picks on a tackle mean that you are doing nothing to protect the quarterback? There must be something I'm missing. Is tackle a position like quarterback that if you pick outside of the early first round, you're hoping for good luck that they are suitable for a championship roster? Are
No.
there only 10 left tackles in the NFL that enable you to be a Super Bowl contender? Kind of like there are only about 10 quarterbacks? Just isolating the offensive side of the football and oversimplifying the formula to being a successful team in this league, you need a top 8 quarterback, a top 20 wide receiver, and a solid O-line. Doesn't that logic lend itself to getting a quarterback in the top of the draft and using the subsequent picks toward those other assets in the order of their importance to the formula of success? I agree tackle is more important than guard, but wouldn't using a first-round pick when you don't have your quarterback be similar to the Cole Strange pick, where even if he ended up being the best tackle in the league, you could still be less than a playoff team? I don't even understand what he's saying.
I kind of understand it. I think the difference is that the Patriots used to operate in a world on offensive line where they could hand Dante Scarnecchia anybody and he would turn him into a starting caliber tackle.
Right.
And now they don't operate in that world anymore where they have the developmental ability at coaching. Maybe they hire a new offensive line coach. Maybe Adrian Clem ends up being better at his job than I think. But right now you have to hand whoever is going to be coaching that group a talented room, because I don't think that they're just going to turn whoever, Sebastian Vollmer in the second round from Houston, and turn him into a starting right tackle for 8 years.
Right.
Like
But,
I don't think
but
that's
you do
gonna
not
happen.
have to take a tackle in the top 5 to get a good tackle.
Well-
number one. Number two, there's a lot of teams that have success with average to below average
Right.
offensive lines.
Yeah, the more important thing is how good does how high of draft picks does your O-line need to be a championship caliber team?
No,
You know?
and I'm not saying that if whatever the way this turned out, let's say it's disaster, okay, and they beat the Jets, and everybody else loses, and you drop to like 6.
I think it's 5 is the lowest. they can
Okay,
go.
so 5. And, everybody's gone. The trades went up in front of you. You couldn't do it. Like, I'm not saying that you don't take Joe Alt or Fashanu. I'm not suggesting that you don't do that. But I do think in this draft, the way that they've talked about this, there are other tackles that will go in the top 20. So I think you can get like the third or fourth tackle and they might all be the same. That's probably not going to happen with quarterback.
Yeah,
I
it'd
agree.
be better to invest in the best offensive line coach that you can find.
Well, I think the offensive line coach is maybe the most important assistant coach you have on your entire staff. And like that spot, because you're coaching a bunch of guys, like it's probably the biggest group of guys that you have to coach, and it's about getting all 5 guys to do it together at the same time. Like that's a really hard
and nobody
thing
else,
to do.
none of the other coaches want to deal with it. So you're kind of off on your own.
Yeah, and it's
you know?
like one of those things too, and I think this was Matt Patricia's problem, where like if you weren't born in it, then you can't understand it. Like if you weren't, a guy like Dante Scarnecchia who did it for so long, or an offensive lineman in the past, or whatever, like it's so hard to learn the language. It's difficult if you haven't really been in the trenches and in that spot before.
I would just say, like, put the name to the claim. Like, they have right now Vidarian Lowe and Calvin Anderson as their tackles on the roster. So, if you want to tell me that
cannot
the
stand.
7th tackle is going to be just fine, okay. But I also maybe would like to just say, hey, can we just get an absolute stud and make this guy a cornerstone of the franchise? And then no matter what quarterback we're going to put in there is going to be very well protected. And, this is – and not even on the field, but like a guy who's going to be a face of the franchise. Like, I don't know. It's easy to say that, but like there's no good tackles in free agency. Like you're kind of screwed at the position this year. And
that's
to
a really
say, well, you're just
tough
going to throw a
point.
2nd or 3rd rounder in there and it'll be fine. Like that's a little concerning to me, especially if you're talking about a rookie quarterback getting in there and he's going to get his bell rung.
That's a big problem. Is the free agent market is terrible. Like Trent Brown and Mike Onwenu are 2 of the best free agent tackles that are going to be available, and that's the 2 guys you have right now that you think aren't good enough. So the tackle class is pretty top heavy, but there are quite a few guys that are going to go in the top 50 picks that people think can play, but then it just drops off completely. Whereas like wide receiver is really deep.
Yeah.
Like this is probably one of the best wide receiver classes we've seen in the last 5
And
years.
we say that like
or so.
every year. I feel like, there's always just a collection of guys over the first 2 days that, will be able to make an impact. And that's.
I just feel like they absolutely need to draft tackles. I mean,
they should have last year, really. That's
I just feel like we kind of gloss. Like I think Evan's point about the way that the unit has been coached is big a part of the problem, because I've seen them operate with average to below average players at these positions, and it's been fine. Now, obviously, Tom Brady helps that, and you don't have that. But I think that they've had problems with communication and with sort of execution on simple stunts that happen all the time.
Yeah, the communication's poor.
So I think that's partly, at least, on the coaching.
Yep.
Rich in New York, enjoying the show during the workday as always. I agree with Evan from past shows who commented on the baggage about Caleb Williams with his father, etc. That coupled with Caleb's poor play against good teams makes me skeptical about picking him so high. I think Jaden Daniels has the grit to be an NFL quarterback despite his frame not being as big as Lamar, etc.
He played poorly against a good team.
When Jaden
Notre
transferred
Dame?
from Arizona State, his
Are they
teammates
good?
made fun of him and trashed his locker.
game.
As Washington,
Did you hear that?
they scored 50.
I mean,
They're having a whisper
I think he got killed against Notre Dame.
And
This
Notre
year.
Dame stinks.
There's no doubt about that.
Washington, pretty good.
Yeah.
They got in a shootout in that game.
When Jaden transferred from Arizona State, his teammates made fun of him and trashed his locker. The video went viral online. He didn't run home to his mother crying. He balled out at LSU
And there
and
you
won
have
the Heisman.
And there it is.
Separately, how do you compare this situation to the early 90s when the Patriots drafted Drew? Yes, I know they had the number 1 pick that year.
How do you know Jaden Daniels didn't go home and cry to his mom? Just
Oh,
because it
and
wasn't
by the
on
way,
TV
what did-
doesn't mean he didn't do it. Like
Caleb Williams ran hiding from Oklahoma and went to USC. And what did he do? I'll fill it in. He won the Heisman.
oh, okay, yeah.
Just
like Jaden Daniels.
again, if you don't want Caleb Williams or Drake May or Jaden, whoever you pick, that's fine. Please don't give me that he cried to his mother as a reason why you don't want to take Caleb Williams. Tell me something football-wise why you don't want to take him.
A little bit a couple of news items here, real quick. Nothing major, but the Chiefs are saying that Patrick Mahomes is not playing in the game on Sunday
picks.
against the Chargers, which matters because the Chargers are 5-11 and are right in the mix draft pick wise. So that adds intrigue to that, and also Zach Wilson still not out of concussion protocol, so looking like Trevor Siemian for the Jets.
Can I ask you a question though, Paul? Like,
did we play him when he was in Denver, Simeon?
We've played him
think so,
before.
yeah.
I don't remember where it was.
Just regards with the crying doesn't bother me, but it
The
felt
father thing worries me.
but
I'm
it
not going to
felt-
lie about
it felt
that.
kind of performative. And that would be I don't cry and I don't care, but the performative nature.
I would
of
agree
it,
with that.
That's
I
a
would
little
agree
bit
with
of
that.
a bug to me.
Okay,
I think he's a little bit of a head case.
It's fine if you think that's a bug. Like, again, I don't have any problem with including all of this. Just don't tell me he stinks because of that.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what's happening. Not to the people who matter, the people on the radio are saying this. Like, he cried to his mother, I'm out on him. Like,
Yeah.
I've heard that like 10 times by my boys on my show.
Yeah.
I'm out on him, he cried.
It's not even
Okay.
That's
As long as we're being rational about it.
right. It's not the crying. It's just it felt like I'm going to make this about me right now, and I don't know.
I just worry about him in this market. Like, I don't worry about him in terms of his talent. Like, I'm kind of with Paul on this, like, in terms of all that type of stuff. But I just worry about him in this market. Like, is he mentally tough enough to handle Boston? Because if he doesn't play well right out of the gate, or if he struggles like Mac did, after a good rookie year, like, I don't know how Mac handled being in this environment. I don't know if it was the best for him that every single person is shouting that he stinks and that,
Zappy's getting chance, right? Like,
yeah, like, I don't know how all that stuff really.
They lost that game 52-42. He doesn't play well against good teams. That was the game. That was the game. That was the Washington. That was against Washington, the best team that they played.
Yeah.
Colin in Scotland, do you think we could get Justin Fields for a 3rd or 4th round pick and try and get Marvin Harrison Jr. with our 1st pick? Or do you think Fields is a lost cause?
I think you could get him maybe with a 3rd round pick. Because I saw the Fowler thing. It said second or 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to think the Patriots being in the high 2nd, they would be closer to 3rd.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you think it's 2nd or 3rd, you're not going to get a high 2nd for him. It's probably going to be something in between.
I feel skewed because we saw him play pretty well here against the Patriots last year when they, that was probably one of the worst losses of the season. I don't know. I don't feel like I can speak really to, like, he still has talent. I mean, you see what he does, but it just isn't consistent. And I think trying to predict whether someone will find that consistency and be able to play game in, game out, not making dumb mistakes, making good throws, throwing it away when it's really hard to predict. And I think that's exactly what Chicago is probably asking themselves right now. But we kind of talked earlier, like, that you've spent the pick on the guy, you've invested in him a little bit. Maybe fill a couple other needs and then see what happens with him this year. And if you got to go back to it, then you got some other pieces in place waiting for that guy.
Yeah, I'm not too interested in Justin Fields.
Nah.
And I was a big fan of his coming out.
That would only be if I can't get anybody.
Yeah, I just don't really see how that's a means to an end for the Patriots. Like, so you're going to take another quarterback that's missing something. There's just something, the consistency thing, I think is exactly it, Mike, that he's just not, as a thrower, he's just not consistent enough to do it for 4 quarters every week and consistently be locked in. And you're going to try to fix that problem. I don't see it.
I also think I've been a little bit, I don't want to say broken by Cam Newton, but like just that year of Cam Newton, like I have no desire for a retread quarterback. Like, there's just a big part of me that would just say I'd rather get my butt kicked with Bailey Zappi and get a 1st overall pick than to bring in one of these guys who's been everywhere and you don't really have any hopes of doing anything with them, but you need to put somebody in the position and it can't be Bailey Zappi again. So I'm probably wrong. I know it, but I'm like go back to your Stidham thing. Just play Stidham then. Like, let's just take our lumps and instead of trying to fake it with a film.
But I don't like it. Wouldn't be. This would be that would totally be a bridge guy, not fake it. We're not taking a run. Like, and again, I agree with you guys. If there's 4 or 5 quarterbacks that I would say, like, I don't really like Bo Nix and J.J. McCarthy, but you could sell me on the other 4.
Yeah.
Williams, May, Daniels, and Penix. You could sell me on those 4, but that doesn't mean you can get them. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get them. And if they don't, I don't just want to run it back with Bailey Zappi.
Yeah.
Like, I want something to come in here. Now, maybe you'd say, well, that's too expensive getting, Justin Fields. there's got to be this year's version of Baker Mayfield available or something like
Baker
that.
Mayfield.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to be available.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's
especially
good
if
for him.
they win Sunday.
Yeah.
Yep.
Joe from Watkins Glen writes in,
Oh.
Fred's talking about the 2014 movie Draft Day, where the quarterback who was supposed to go number 1 had a party and none of his teammates went to it, and he ended up falling in the draft. I didn't say it.
This is great.
Your guy said it.
Joe Murray
We've
did.
had our listeners
talking
introduce
about
us to Michael Penix today.
Yeah.
I'd never seen him, never
Yeah.
heard of him.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but there's a movie called Draft Day where
God,
Bo
don't even get me
Callahan
Don't
didn't
even
have
get me
anybody go to his
started on
birthday.
that movie. I want all my picks back. Like what?
yeah.
Like what kind of realistic movie is this?
It was completely unrealistic.
God.
No.
That's the one with Kevin
No.
Costner, right?
And
Oh,
it's-
yeah.
No,
it's
you didn't think that
horrible.
was realistic?
Oh.
in
No,
any
it
way?
wasn't. But I thought it was I was entertained.
I found it very entertaining.
I
but
was
it was
entertained.
not realistic in any way.
I went in with very, very low expectations.
I did too.
And I was like, "Oh, this is
No,
okay.
it's
okay."
Yeah,
No.
it's,
You know what else?
No.
You know why they ended up picking the guy that they picked?
Why?
Because he gave the $100 bill back.
Right. That's
He was
right.
the only one.
That's
He was
right.
the only one.
He was
that
the only
did,
one.
That read
But
the
Evan,
playbook. Yeah.
I know you're looking for realism.
Yeah.
But if you were to make a movie about Draft Day the way
Yeah.
it really is, it'd be boring as hell.
That is true.
I get that to an extent, but it's just like, can we have some sort of realism whatsoever?
Yeah.
Like
It was pretty bad. Like he traded everything and then just brought it all back.
Yeah, it does not work. like that.
Evans, you're the extreme end of it, but like my wife, who is the most casual of casual football fans, she enjoyed it too. I mean, it's like
Exactly.
it puts it for people who aren't really
Right.
like invested in it. They understand at least
Yeah.
the dynamics. Of
I
it.
agree
It's
with
not
Fred. I found it
realistic
an entertaining
plot,
watch.
but it's like a draft for dummies kind of movie.
I'll never get that 2 hours back.
Travis in West Virginia. I think this is aimed at Evan. I'm not sure. But he says, since his play has been mediocre of late, are any of you considering removing the Josh Allen fathead from your bedroom wall?
Oh,
That'd be either Paul or Evan.
That
but
could
I'm
be
not
either
sure.
one of
Yeah.
us. I
No.
mean, Evan has more of a crush than I do, but I'm fine with Josh Allen.
I do have a crush. I was disappointed I didn't get to see him after the game on Sunday. I
Hey,
just,
you.
I remember me. Yeah. Look, I Bart was texting me all of the game on Sunday. Your boy stinks. He's awful. This, that, the other thing. Like,
It's just unbelievable.
I would trade places with Buffalo in a heartbeat right now. Like if you were, and all of you would do the exact same. If
They'd
he was
be
the
pants off
if
if there was a trade
yeah.
tomorrow. All of these guys on Twitter
Yeah.
every week
Yeah.
We'd
that
have
love to tell you every time he makes a mistake would be
Yeah.
pants
We'd
off.
have an emergency podcast and
Right.
it would be one of
Like,
the
he
most
didn't-
listened to ever.
welcome.
he
Josh.
didn't play well at all in the game.
No, he was terrible.
He was terrible, and you still weren't even close to really winning the football game against them. So, like,
Do you guys think they're in trouble though? I mean, do you think that he's in trouble, that the things are turning for him, or do you think that? I mean, I just something feels
if
off
trouble
to me.
is 42 touchdowns, then I'll sign up
Yeah,
for that trouble
well,
any
yeah,
day.
but I mean, like, but part of the team, like, it's just
Oh,
it
yeah.
seems like they, and I'm saying this because I want Josh Allen. I don't want him, but he deserves to be.
I think they have
successful.
Well, I
here's
think
the
they
other
have
thing.
some flaws.
Here's
Yeah.
the other thing. I was
Yes.
talking to a longtime beat writer in Buffalo when I was up there. And there's added pressure on the team right now because they're building this new stadium.
Yeah.
The state or municipal or whoever is going to pay for $1.5 billion of that stadium. Anything over that, the Bills have to come up with, and the minimum will be $500 million. And it's not like they have a big corporate base there and they're selling suites like in LA and everything. So.
Come to Buffalo.
So
Watch the clouds.
this guy was saying if for some reason they didn't get into the playoffs, it looks like now they might. But
that's
no, it's not definite. But
tough.
we were talking before the game, and he was saying if there's some reason they don't get into the playoffs, there's going to be a lot of people.
If
with,
they
with
lose,
tight
they have a
collars.
very good chance to
Yeah.
not go to the playoffs.
Yeah, and so there's pressure on the team, pressure on the owner. That trickles down to RA and then to the players.
I think
I had to get that.
It was good though. It was good.
I think his
Flawless.
problem is so much coaching though, because of just the way he plays. And Dable just seems like the only guy that could get through
Yeah.
to him to play under control.
Yeah.
And all these other people can't do it. But at the same time, he can beat you any given Sunday.
Yeah.
Like any
What I
given
think-
week, he can torment you.
Yeah. What I think Dable did was Dable found the line. Like, you can do this and you can do that, but you have to do this and this too.
Yeah.
And where I think early in the year with Ken Dorsey, it was like, you can't run anymore. Just, you need to stop doing all that. Stop being stupid. Just stay in the pocket. Blah, blah, blah. And he can't play like that.
Yeah.
And then Now it's, the desperation sets in, and they basically need to win all their games to make the playoffs. So every third down increases in importance, and you see him make a decision like he did in the fourth quarter, where he's a yard short and he's trying to reach the ball in the middle of the field.
Right.
Yeah.
Like most coaches would teach you, don't do that on the goal line.
Yeah, that's Bledsoe.
He did it in the middle of the field with the ball extended. That fumble could have cost him the game.
Yeah, it's so funny too because all of the advanced metrics still love the Bills offense and they love Josh Allen.
Yeah,
Like
the Bills' offense is not great.
when you watch it, it's such a different vibe than what if you just look at the spreadsheet right now with them because if you just looked at the stats and all that, like he might be the MVP of the league. But then you actually watch their offense and you're like, this is all over the place.
And even if you look at the personnel on paper where it's like you got Diggs, you got the number one, you got Gabe Davis, good deep threat. Shakir's kind of emerging as a slot guy. You drafted the tight end who goes with Knox, who's been pretty good and giving the Patriots problems. I guess I'm just looking at it if I was, a Bills front office guy, what would I be looking at this offseason? Like, what would I look to change to try to get him back that level where it felt like they were knocking on the door of the Super Bowl?
They need some consistency out of guys not named Diggs.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like if that's Shakir. I think it's probably at this point we've seen enough of Gabe Davis. It ain't him.
Yeah, Kincaid.
They want it to be
seems like-
Kincaid.
yeah.
I think he's fine, but I just don't think you get they needed another presence.
Yeah.
Like a dynamic player.
Kincaid
funny to say that he had a
is,
51-yard catch, but
yeah, Kincaid's more explosive than I thought he was going. I thought he was going to be that steady possession tight end, and I think that's what they thought too. And as a rookie, he's been more the 51-yard catch guy than he has been, just the. And I think that's almost been backwards for them in a way. Like they've been targeting him a lot on like just little passes over the middle, like and just trying to get him to move the chains for them. And I just don't think it's added that much consistency.
James Pettigrew, the most interesting Patriots fan in the world, writes in about the movie Draft Day. Says, I remember taking a laminated copy of Jimmy Johnson's trade value chart to the theater and being very disappointed.
Doesn't add up.
that was a shot at you, Ev.
Yeah.
You know what would be perfect, though, I think, for the Bills is like that DeAndre Hopkins move. Where you get that, like, a little older receiver, still got some juice, maybe isn't going to be the huge contract, but, to be able to get one of those
and
kind of guys.
But
Fred's
I
point,
think
go ahead.
the thing with them is the reason why they made an offensive coordinator move is because they knew they had the people to be better. We should be performing better than we are.
Yeah, but your point about RA is accurate. I do think there's I think he, unlike most, I think he's a pretty good coach. I don't know if he gets tight in big games, and maybe that's what happens, and that's a flaw, obviously. But I do think there's a staleness to it that you're good.
Right.
We just can't seem
Right.
to get past the AFC Championship. We can't get to the Super Bowl, and then maybe there's a little bit of
Is
a
there
frustration level.
Is there a
setting
comp
in.
to that?
He's Mark Jackson.
Mark Jackson. I was thinking more NFL, but
He's Mark Jackson.
Yeah.
Like he's the Warriors. Mark Jackson,
and then Steve Kerr came in,
and they
yeah.
I will say
floodgates
this
open.
about I thought their defense was completely done. Like when they lost all those guys, and they were giving up a lot of yards and a lot of points in some of those games. And McDermott was under fire because remember he sort of won the power play with Leslie Frazier. They didn't like the way they were playing. He left. I'm going to call the plays. They lose Milano. They lose White. They lose Jones. They lost a lot of players.
And Von Miller has not been good.
He hasn't really been a part of the defense. I don't call him a loss because he hasn't done anything for him. But they lost a lot of personnel, and they didn't look like they had any answers on how to fix it. Now, all of a sudden, the last month, their defense has played pretty well.
Rasul Douglas, really, who just won.
That was a big move. I give Brandon Bean a lot of credit for that
AFC
move.
Player of the Week, Rasul Douglas. That was a huge move for them defensively, and I wonder if you gave. Because I think McDermott is probably, like you kind of said, going stale. I think that it's probably.
I just wonder, just from afar. I don't know.
If Ben Johnson is their head coach next year, and he gets puts Josh Allen in the Jared Goff offense and kind of gets him to harness it a little bit more. I feel like those types of guys that are offensive minded would have that ability to come in and say, we're going to put you in a system and it's going to produce the explosive plays for you so you're not running around like a chicken.
You don't have to run.
Right.
You run when we want you to run.
Yeah.
Yeah. Barton Poland says, question mainly to Evan.
Shocker.
Aren't you a bit concerned that most of Penix's production comes outside the numbers? He has horrendous numbers when throwing up the middle, and NFL teams will exploit that. I'm still not sold. However, If he keeps the production against a very good Michigan defense, then I may be swayed.
Yeah, if you're good, like, we could probably say the same thing. The other guys are good throwing in the middle of the field and aren't good outside the numbers. So are you worried about
Which would you rather have?
I would say middle of the field.
Not me.
But I think that if you're really, really good at one thing, then I can build around that. That it doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah, and I don't know the numbers, so I'll trust it. But I mean, I saw like an absolute seed that he threw right down the middle for a touchdown.
That touchdown. Yeah.
Like between the two converging
I watched it
safeties.
like 6 times. Like, how did that even get through? Like,
Mac
But
Jones
I
made
mean,
that
I'm
throw
sure
to
that he
Kevin
has the
Warren in week
numbers.
one.
I don't have those kinds of numbers.
Yeah, no,
Can
I don't
can
know.
I itch a scratch for a second?
Sure.
You just brought up Mac Jones.
Scratch an itch.
So there was and I don't know if this was a lot of people. Yeah, I have an itch to scratch. And that's right. I have an itch. I'm itching. I'm scratching it. What's wrong with that?
Can I scratch? Can I itch a scratch real quick?
Yeah. So Bailey Zappi throws 3 picks, and there's been a lot of credit, quote unquote, given to the resilience of the Patriots on Sunday, which I would agree with.
Yeah.
I don't think they didn't tuck tail and go home and lose by 30. They kept fighting and got themselves back in the game. And then there was a line of thought, and I heard it on my shows this morning driving in. Well, that's the quarterback, Bailey Zappi. Like, he didn't let it get to him. He kept fighting, and that's what they weren't getting. In Mac in Dallas and then against New Orleans, it fell apart. Once he threw a pick, it was all over. He was a puddle. And I started thinking, you guys correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't go back and look this up, but like I was thinking back to the opener, where the first drive of the season ends in a pick 6, and then the next drive ends up with a fumble, and all of a sudden they're down 16-0, and he responded with 2 of the best drives he had all year. They didn't tuck tail and go home.
Well, that was a long time ago.
No, but my point is, it took some time for Mac Jones to look like he did.
Okay.
So we get a few more games like that from Bailey Zappi, and then what happens?
Yeah, maybe he's the same.
Like, I think Mac Jones didn't tuck tail in the first game. He didn't do that in the second game either when Demario Douglas fumbled and they never got to see the field again, as an aside. And also threw a pick in the second half of that game as they were trying to get back into the game. No, they kept fighting to the last possession, and they gave themselves a chance. I don't think they had really a huge chance to win either game, but my point is, why was that not resilient?
Yeah.
Why is it only resilient when Bailey Zappi does it?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I didn't really even look at it that way. I looked at it more as Bailey Zappi just kept doing what Bailey Zappi does, and it wasn't really that remarkable or that inspired. It just, what really more did they do?
And if you guys disagree, if I've created a straw
I'm sure
man,
he has less pressure on him too.
But if I've created a straw man and people don't look at it that way, but I heard that a lot.
Yeah. No, I mean, I do think the context of the season and what's to play for in the first game of the season and, not giving up, after the first 2 drives of the season versus, your team is already out and you're 4-11.
Like, how many times have you heard how many more games they would have won if they made this move sooner? Okay, well, can I just ask, like, can you let me know, did he play like he did in the first half against Pittsburgh, against the against the Giants, or did he play like he did in the first half against Buffalo against the Giants?
Right. And that's exactly like so much of Zappi's game, you can draw complete parallels to what Mac did.
Exactly.
And it's the same.
It's basically the same. Bailey Zappi's numbers as a starter are slightly better than Mac Jones's. Only slightly.
Yeah.
It's like 1.2 touchdowns to like 0.9. Like, that's the difference.
Yeah, Bailey Zappi's QBR is 38. Mac Jones's is 36.
Wow.
Is that just
what's
as
the
a
highest?
Is that
Both
just as a
terrible.
starter?
Just as a starter.
Okay, yeah, because
Both terrible.
yeah, the rating is like 89 to 78 or something like that. It's not all that different. I think I wrote it down.
The only difference really is that
87 to 77.
The big difference is obviously the big plays. Like, Bailey Zappi has produced more big plays down the field. Now, he's also had guys make catches for him. So that might be like Jalen Reagor
Devontae Parker
drops the deep ball against Washington. He caught
the one
on
this
Sunday.
Week. That's why I was doing my mic thing.
Yeah.
I was like, you think Mac just looks in the sun? And I said, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
We get special teams touchdowns.
Yeah.
This jackass couldn't catch a cold when I was throwing it to him.
Devontae Parker, too.
Yeah, what was the Parker drop earlier in the season when Mac hit him on
In
Raiders.
In the Raiders game.
The Raiders.
Yep.
And he was like 5 for 5 in contested catches in Denver.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No help.
Let's get to the Ace Ticket
No
Hotline.
help. He had no help.
855 Pat's 500. Eldred's in North Carolina. What's up, Eldred? Hey,
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing?
good.
Hey, Elder.
I'm doing good. Okay, Paul. Phoenix number outside downfield is 81%. In the middle, it's more like 60, and a little bit intermediate is 55. Heard that when they played Texas. They said that then, you know.
Sounds
But
like really
he
good
is
numbers
act-
to me.
60.
60?
Yeah, he really is
Down the field?
and he can run on down the field.
That sounds like a pretty good
61%.
number to me.
Yeah, 81%. But
I meant
they
the
also
60.
said he was the second behind the Heisman. He should have won the Heisman. He did more than Daniels did. Got his team in the championship and everything. Yeah. So, like I said, like I keep telling my boy Evan, I take him any day over Drake May and Caleb Williams. Reason why? May can't play that good against a good team, and he's not that accurate. You even said it yourself. He's a model player. You got to groom him. Why you want to groom somebody when you got a quarterback that can throw and run? I wouldn't groom him.
Yeah,
And May,
okay.
and William, he just came out and told you a while back before the private draft, talking about draft talk. New England and Chicago, he will not play for.
Yeah,
If you draft him,
I completely
he's not
dismiss
coming.
any of that.
Yes, and that's
yeah.
why I said, why would you want somebody that don't want to come to your
You
franchise?
can't take
I
Caleb
wouldn't want
Williams
him.
anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I think the thing
Caleb
is
Williams, yeah.
the thing is that Penix. If you stack Penix's film from this year up again, he has better film than everybody. Like he's had the best year out of anybody in the draft. But you're not drafting based off of college production. Like that's how they got Mac Jones. Is they drafted a guy
Thanks,
that had a high floor in their in the draft world, like a high floor prospect that had really good numbers in college and got his team to a national championship and all that kind of stuff. But you should be drafting the guy with the best physical tools, with the best traits. And Drake May's traits are just better than Penix's, but there's more seasoning that needs to be done. But that means he has a higher ceiling. So like you can talk yourself into either direction. But I just think with Penix, like comparing his film from this year to Drake May's is apples to oranges because he's throwing to Roma Dunze and Polk and Marshall, who's going to be a first-round pick next year, and he's behind an offensive line whose left tackle is going to be a top 50 pick. Like, and then at UNC, Drake May has Tez Walker, and that's like pretty much it. In terms of NFL talent on that roster around him.
And
it's
Penix isn't much of a runner, by the way.
It's just not a fair comparison. Like if you put Drake May in Washington's offense and you put Penix in Washington's offense, okay, then we'll see who's the better player. But right now,
And the most rushing attempts he's had in a season was 35. Like that's not.
Is that with Indiana?
No, that was with Washington.
Yeah.
The last 2 years he had 35 runs last year and 32 this year. Now that. Like, I'm not going to give you the yards because that in college they do it screwy, and the sack total counts as rushing for the quarterback. So, like, he had 32 carries for 13 yards this year. But that's not indicative of when he runs.
Because he lost a lot of sack yardage.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about the attempts. Like, he's not,
no, he's much more of like a
dumb.
Tua, like move off the spot type of player.
Yeah,
than
and I think he does move very well in the pocket.
Yeah.
Yes.
Todd's in North Carolina. Hey, Todd.
Hey, guys. I remember at the start of the year, and I think it was I read it on Bleach Report back in the day, I think it was like last February. Kraft came out and said that there's going to be changes and this team is going to come, and I think he was promising the season ticket holders and the fans in general that, we're going to do this. How much of that will affect his final decision on whether he keeps Bill or not? Because I know you guys have kind of, some of you, not all of you, but some of you waffled on whether Bill's going to be back or not, stuff like that. So it's just curious to think if, will that project forward, or is this going to be just solely based on this, right here and now?
Well, I think it's the same mindset. We need to start winning. So, whatever how that manifests, whether it's Bill leaving or bringing in coaches or spending money in free agency, I think there's a sense of urgency with the Crafts. There's no doubt.
Yeah,
it hasn't gone away.
And that set the precedent. Last year, it's like, and that's why we're talking about next week. It's like, something has to happen next week. If it's not, a change at head coach, it's another one of those messages of, if they were to keep Bill,
This
I think
is what
that they
we're
would,
doing and why.
They would have to explain it, I think, because,
Yeah.
that's what they've established already.
Yep. Let's go to Spee in Fresno. What's up, Spee? Spee.
Good job.
Yo, Happy New Year.
Oh,
hey.
Can you hear me?
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey,
Can't hear you.
last day that you can say Happy New Year, by the way.
Oh, really?
according to
Okay.
Larry David.
I'm sorry. Thanks for letting me know the cap, Evan.
You're welcome.
No cap.
I had a question regarding the excuse me, the mechanics of, I guess, what can happen with Bill, and if Kraft finds a willing trade partner, but say like Bill doesn't want to go there because let's do hypothetically, maybe it's the Lions or something, because I assume that in Bill's contract he has some right to refuse a trade. So if he did, how does that work? Would he have to retire in order to get out of a trade arrangement, or would that take Kraft, he wouldn't have to pay Bill's salary if Bill retired like that?
Then it gets messy. It gets messy because no matter what, even if he retires, the Patriots would still have his rights. So if once he unretires,
have to pay his salary.
What? No, if he retires, they don't have to pay his salary. What's that?
I'm sorry. Would they have to pay his? I think it's $25 million, right? That they'd owe Bill on his salary. So would they still have to pay that if Bill retired to get out of a trade?
No, if he retired, I don't think you have to. If you fire him, you do.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
And I don't have the answer to this. I'd be a bad lawyer. Are you allowed to trade a coach if he doesn't want to go?
No.
I don't know.
No, I mean you can't force a guy to go somewhere.
No, but like I'm saying, like
a player you could force.
A player you can just trade him,
right?
And if he doesn't go, he doesn't go. Like he's cut or whatever. There's a resolution. I don't think you can just trade a coach.
I don't either,
unless the coach wants to go somewhere else.
Right. Exactly.
Right? That's confusing. Yeah, and he's the GM too, so it makes it even maybe more confusing.
Yeah, I just don't think that Robert can go to Bill and say, "Oh, by the way, we've traded you to Detroit."
Right.
Bye.
I don't think you can do that.
You can't do that.
So what happens then if
he's interested in going to coach somebody else, like say Dallas or a Chargers, and then they go and they work out some kind of a compensation deal. Like
it's much more upfront.
We'll let him go. Yeah, we'll let him go.
We
know you want him to be your coach. Slide us a second round pick and we'll call it a day.
I mean,
that's how it would
Kraft refuses that deal with the Cowboys.
Well, he'd be part of it, though. Oh, well, I mean, I think they're all part of it. You know, like they're all negotiating that deal.
I don't know why wouldn't he want that?
It's not Robert and just Jerry Jones.
I think that would be ideal. You get. I mean, if you have any concerns or worries, you'd say, well, we'd feel better about it if he was in the other conference.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
that would be ideal.
The fact that we haven't heard more of this, because pretty much every time a team fires a coach, there's time left on the contract. And they have to pay.
This is true.
They have to pay it. And the fact that we haven't heard more of this type of stuff means that it doesn't happen a lot. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Where the team doesn't want the coach, they fire him, and then they get compensation from another team.
When there's a trade involving a coach, it's usually, and I think probably 100%, the coach wants to go somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
And says, I'm not coming back here. Oh, you're not coming back here? Okay, well, you're still under contract for us. Oh, but I want to go to
like Sean
John
Payton.
Gruden. Sean Payton.
Or like Bill Belichick from the Jets to here.
Right. And Gruden going from Tampa to the Raiders.
Yeah.
I just think
the
Sean
Raiders
Payton
to
is
Tampa.
a current example for some people.
That answers the deeper question. I'm trying to figure out who has more power in this situation, and you're making it sound like Bill has more power than Kraft.
Yes.
I think Bill has more power because of the money.
Yeah. I also think we don't know what is in his contract. And I mean, Fred mentioned what was in the Parcells contract, and there's probably stipulations in there that might cover this kind of stuff that we don't.
Yeah,
have
but the only thing is the money. The money is the issue, and I believe the report that says that he's under contract for 24. So that to me gives Bill the leverage, no matter what the contract.
I think Bill has all the leverage because he's he's the guy. Like he's the commodity, right? And in this case, it's not like a player where the league is in control of the player, the team is in control of the player. Bill could retire. Bill could go into TV. He could coach someplace else next year, and the Patriots would have to facilitate it pretty much.
And there's no CBA for coaches. CBA only applies to players. They've tried to create a coaches association, a formal coaches association with their own thing, but I don't think they've ever been able to do that.
He certainly wouldn't be a part of it if they
coaches
did.
Union.
Yeah.
There was a guy that used to be here that headed that up. I forget his name now.
One more question on this line. So, let's just say hypothetically, Kraft is only able to find the Lions as a willing trade partner. Bill doesn't want to do that, and Bill doesn't want to retire. What does he just sit for the year? And
they have to fire him. That's a stare
off. The Patriots have to fire him, and they have to pay him.
Right. That's why Bill has the leverage in this situation, is because that exact scenario.
Now, during that time, once they fire him and he's still under they're still paying him. I think they still have his rights for that year while they're paying. So then, if he wanted to go to another team, I think the Patriots could then ask for compensation.
So they fire him? No, I don't think so, right?
Well, if they fire him, they still have to pay him.
Yeah, but I don't think that means that they have control over him. They made the
No, if they
decision to
fire him, they lose control over him, but they would have to pay him.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
why that's why the Patriots bring back Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, those guys, because they're still getting paid by everybody else.
But if he goes to Dallas, let's say,
yeah,
they don't have to pay him anymore.
Dallas.
No, Patriots don't have to pay him.
No.
Right.
Wait. If he goes to Dallas, if they fire him,
if they fire him,
if they fire him, they would have to pay him.
Yeah, if they fire him and he goes to Dallas, they'd still have to pay him. That's Matt Patricia.
No. Because Matt Patricia didn't take the same job. If Bill Belichick was fired,
there would probably be offset language.
Right.
Potentially.
If he was fired here, Patriots are paying him, but then he takes a job with Dallas. Whatever Dallas is paying him comes off of what the Patriots are paying him.
I believe that would be the case.
Right, but
and they could,
but Dallas, so this is a lot of people say
Dallas would hire him for $1 million.
Jerry Jones doesn't
but
pay.
they wouldn't be able to do that.
Jerry Jones doesn't pay coaches. The Chargers don't pay coaches.
No.
But this is how those teams might be able to do it.
Yeah, but see, when guys like Floyd Reese or Dean, not Dean Pease, but Dom Capers came here, they were on contracts. We hire them at a different position, and we don't give them a title, or we don't. But if the Dallas tried to get away with that, say, oh, we're just going to name them, the Patriots would then go to the league, and the league would have to get involved because, they're not going to. The Patriots aren't going to let a team get away with saying, oh, we're paying him $1 million, and you're still on the hook for $24 million.
No, but they could pay him 10.
Yeah, I think even then the Patriots would file a complaint.
I mean, you can file a complaint, but what is their grounds? They do the same thing all the time.
Because the league would intercede. They would mediate that.
I think what's difficult about it, too, is that he's technically getting paid for 2 jobs with the Patriots.
Right.
So a team like Dallas could argue, well, we're just paying him as the head coach because Jerry's the GM, so he's not running personnel here like he did in New England.
Yeah.
So I think
do that.
That's the other complicated thing. But I think that people that talk about it and say, well, the Chargers and the Cowboys don't pay coaches, well, what if they don't have to pay him his full boat? Like, what if the Patriots are still on the hook for paying him?
Right. Thanks, Spee.
Congratulations to Brock Purdy, the leading vote getter for the Pro Bowl games.
Wow.
Chris is in Maine. What's up, Chris? What happened to Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
We got to take a break. I got to go get it.
Did you forget?
Oh, are you kidding me?
What?
You mean to tell me that if I said we're going to take a break, you could have gone and gotten it?
Why don't you go
Why
get
don't
it?
you say so?
Go get it now. We'll take a break.
Outta here.
We'll take a break as soon as you get back.
Chris, I'm going to put you on
No,
hold.
don't have to take a break.
Okay.
Wait till he gets back.
I'm sorry. All right, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm good.
I just was
get one for Matt, too.
Question.
Yeah.
I'm going to the game, getting tickets for the game on Sunday, and it's the first time I've been able to get them for Gillette. And I was wondering with the parking situation.
Yep.
I've been to the Jet Stadium before, and you need parking passes. Is that the case for Gillette?
Only for certain lots. So you can find parking across the street or at different lots. So you shouldn't have a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that it?
Okay. All right.
Is that it,
Just wanted
Chris?
to get my ducks in a row. Yeah. And I just want to say,
Drive
I love
safe.
you guys. Been listening to you for years, and this is awesome.
Yeah, drive safe.
Drive safe.
Leave early,
Yeah.
or come the night before and stay at a nearby hotel.
No
Yeah, that's the
excuses
plan.
not to
That's
be
the
there.
plan.
Okay.
Hotel.
All right. Good.
That's what.
All right, Chris. Have a good time.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Have a good time, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, the coaching stuff I do find interesting, like all
It
the
is.
different ramifications. I just think that they'd be best for all concerned to just forget about all. I know it's easy for me. It's easy because it's not my money.
Yeah.
But I think it would just, step aside and say,
right.
Thank you.
Yep. and
Thank you. What we did was unprecedented. Let's just agree to move on.
And
you
do what you want to do, and good luck. But you get what I'm saying, though.
I do get what you're saying.
Every time a team.
No, I do.
I know.
Every time a
fork
team
and knife.
fires a coach, there's usually time left on their contract that they're paying them.
Josh
And the fact that we
McDaniels
don't
with the
hear a lot
Raiders.
more of stuff like this tells me that it just doesn't happen.
What doesn't happen?
And usually
but
they don't get
But
hired.
most guys that get fired,
Yeah.
are like either damaged commodities,
Yeah.
or unwanted altogether. Like Bill Belichick
That's
is
true.
the greatest coach who's ever coached.
That's true.
And if they decide to move on,
He'll be different than
there's an idea that people will want him.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because
who's knocking down Josh McDaniels' door?
Yeah.
The
well,
Patriots,
like
maybe.
Pete Carroll went to USC right away, right? Or did he take a year?
After the Patriots?
Yeah.
No, I don't think he went right to you. I think he was the defensive coordinator in San Francisco.
Oh, is that right?
I want to say.
Well, that's
I
where he
don't-
was
I'm-
before he
no,
got here.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I forget.
All right.
Do you have that? If only it was a way I could look that up.
I'll look.
Well, how many? Like the question is, how many head coaches got fired and immediately took another head coaching job?
Oh, there's probably a fair amount of those.
So he took a year off.
I believe Andy Reid did that from
Fi-
Philadelphia to Kansas City.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like, what happened there? What transpired there? You know, did
The
Kansas-
Eagles fired him.
No, I know, but the Eagles fired him. But did the Eagles still have to keep paying him while he was at Kansas City?
No,
Like,
no,
how
I
did
don't
that
think-
work?
I mean, I don't have the.
Yeah,
I don't have the answer to that.
But it's
All right.
funny because like Bill is like simultaneously, a lot of people in not us necessarily, but a lot of people are running him out of town here, and then he's also like number one on everybody's like coaching candidates list.
Yeah, like I'm consistent. I'm not sure that is a huge market for him, and I am kind of sort of ready for the end here. But I
Yeah.
wonder how much of that is Bill. Like I don't think we talk about that, and I don't know, but.
I think that there's a
Do
lot.
you think Bill really, really wants to be back here after going through all of this?
Right.
Maybe he doesn't.
Maybe he wants out too.
I think there's a lot of the national media, not to pick on them, that aren't here every single day, that haven't seen it erode the way that we have, that aren't aware of the missteps by Bill to get to this point with the Patriots. I think a lot of people look from the outside in and just say it was one bad year, and now they're running the guy out of town,
Yeah.
and they they haven't watched it kind of fall apart like we all have. So his stock in terms of that, I don't think is taking that big of a hit, because I think people are just looking at it like, well, Mac Jones just stinks and they have no quarterback and he had one bad season.
I'm really upset with Deuce.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, he knows that
I was gonna
if
text him
if
in
you
the middle
don't
of the
get there
show.
right away, there's a risk that they run out.
There's
Yeah.
a good
So
chance.
And
he
you know
knows
he's coming
that
back with nothing.
They were giving it out at 12:30, and here it is 1:30, and he hasn't gone yet.
You know he's coming back with
or
nothing.
it's cold.
Well,
It's
it
definitely
can't possibly not be cold. I mean,
Right.
like it's,
What's
but
he thinking?
yeah,
That's
this is what happens. I put him in charge of
trusted the
lunch
wrong
one
person.
day.
that's an error.
So I will say, like, just to take the national thing a step further, like you asked earlier when Evan came back from practice, any national guys around, and like, no, I'm not surprised, because according to the national people, there's nothing to see here.
Right.
Like, it's ridiculous that you're even talking about this. How many times have we gotten finger wagged by someone in the national media because we're talking about the possibility that Bill might not? I
Right.
mean, even in all these Ian Rappaport reports, he's saying, like, somehow, like, there's always some kind of language, incredibly, despite all his success, like,
Right.
to Evan's point, people just haven't been watching. And it goes back to the end of Brady, too. Like,
right.
it's remarkable that they won the Super Bowl the last time. And then it's remarkable that they won 12 games the following year.
Yeah.
Because the roster erosion started long before
100%.
this.
People really don't miss sight of that as well. That offensively, at least, Brady, Gronkowski, and Edelman carried them to one more Super Bowl.
Right.
And mostly Brady, of course. But that roster during the year, remember when they lost those back-to-back games against Pittsburgh and Miami? Like, we thought it was over then. Like, not necessarily Bill fired, but like just the dynasty and the run was maybe over then after the Miami Miracle and everything.
Oh, God.
What?
There
Yeah.
was one left.
He has one.
That's it.
Sandwich.
No, I don't need it.
It goes to Fred.
Oh, he's got it.
He has two?
Two isn't doing it either.
You guys
eat
can have it.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
He's got four.
wow.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All
That
right.
was well done.
It was kind of like your Taylor Swift thing that went right over my head. I missed that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to finish strong.
Get in on the action with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the New England Patriots. New customers can download the DraftKings app now and play free for millions in prizes using code PATS. That's code PATS only at DraftKings. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
iPhone 15 Pro on Verizon.
This holiday, trade in any iPhone in any condition for the new iPhone 15 Pro with titanium, Apple TV 4K, and 6 months of Apple One. All on us with Unlimited Ultimate. Go to your local Verizon store now. 6 months of Apple One, then $10 per month. $999.99 device payment or full retail purchase with new smartphone line on Unlimited Ultimate plan required. Less $1,000 trade-in/promo credit applied over 36 months. Promo credit ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. 0% APR. Apple TV 4K and Apple One offers require eligible phone purchase with activation on Unlimited Ultimate. Additional terms and conditions apply. Visit Verizon.com for details.
Bill Belichick spoke with the media this morning. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Defensive stats in games, and offensively, Hall and Wilson really been targeted a lot, handled the ball a lot. They're both really good players, and they got a lot of the skilled players too. The tight ends, Lazard, Izzy, so good. Good football team. Played really well against Washington. Obviously some earlier in the year, but most recently against Washington. It was pretty impressive. Line's having a good year. It's made like 25 in a row or something like that, minus the one that was blocked. Gibson, explosive returner. So well-balanced team that's got a lot of good things going for him.
Shorter practice than maybe a normal Wednesday?
Kind of like last Wednesday. Kind of like last Wednesday. Yeah, we got a few guys banged up here.
Did you ever manage a game in such a way, Bill, where those guys that are banged up are just thinking about the offseason and next year for those guys and giving them less on their plate?
I don't think I really understand the question. See where the guys are going into the game, and based on where they are in that game, talk to them, talk to the medical people, and that's kind of what it is.
I think it's just given, the season, there's no playoffs ahead. Did you ever think about sitting a guy down, even if he's active, and a whole clear technical?
Players want to play. Practice worked all year to play. If they can play, I would not play them. I think that's fair to the player. I don't know. Maybe you see it differently.
Having Bill O'Brien back this season, just what is the draw to the offense?
Yeah, well, Bill's an experienced coach in our system in football. He's got a good background in a lot of different areas and can help in really all positions offensively, and as well as putting things together from a big picture standpoint.
Have you seen his help? Have you seen a road to Zappy? I feel like as he's been the starter, we've seen him kind of evolve and get better. Do you give that in part to Bill O'Brien?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, Bill does a good job with the quarterbacks. I think he prepares them well.
Just following up on Bill O'Brien for a moment. Yesterday he talked about the inconsistency of the offense, shouldered some of the blame for that. I'm wondering from your perspective for the team this year with the performance in general, is that more on the coaches? Is it on the players? A bit of both?
Yeah, right now we're just really looking to put our best game out there against the Jets and look back the season after the season.
Have you had any conversation with Robert Kraft this week about your future with the team?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting ready for the Jets here.
Your team got eliminated from the playoffs, but they have played well since, particularly on defense. Are you particularly proud in how they've sort of responded and how they've followed your leadership the second half of the season here?
Yeah, these guys have come in and work pretty hard every week.
I think Tyrone Lee Jr.'s window is up today. Or do you plan on activating him?
No, I don't think so.
Now that Zappy's gotten a few starts, have you seen him grown more comfortable into the role? What have you seen him now that he's had a few opportunities?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, experience is always good for a young player. But each week's different, so what the Jets do and how we play the Jets is different than last week or the week before that or the week before that. So, yeah, there's some carryover, some learning, but there's also new things each week now.
start thinking at all about whether he could be your guy next year, or when you start evaluating, who might be your quarterback beyond just Week 18?
Yeah, right now we're getting ready for the Jets.
Do you expect to have Brown to practice today?
Yeah, I don't think he's on the injury report.
Coach, I know you're not big into individual stats, but Demario Douglas has the most catches and receiving yards for a wideout in your tenure. Could you speak to his growth throughout the season and what you've seen from him?
Yeah, Pop's done a good job of, absorbing different roles, offensively, different positions, different roles, different type plays, also some of the return game. But he's a smart kid, works hard, pretty instinctive player. So we've been able to do some things with him, a variety of things with him.
Have you seen teams try to defend him differently over the last month or so now that he's maybe a little more established?
Yeah, you'd have to talk to those teams about how they game planned it or didn't game plan it. Yeah, I wouldn't say I've seen anything that specifically targets him, but maybe within a call they do. I don't know. You have to ask them.
Bill, you talked about the Jets' defensive front. You've got a lot of young linemen who've had to play a lot of snaps. So, Boffy, Lowe, required to put for at the start of the season. Even Jake Andrews. Collectively, individually, how has that group of players progressed to this point?
On a baptism under fire. There'll be more this week. So these guys are really good. They play a lot of different spots, so they, always matched up against the same guy. You got to block different players. And they're good. They rush the passer as well as any team we've played. So with multiple guys, you got a lot of guys to stop. So those guys learn every week, and the young players to get experience. That experience teaches them things, and hopefully it'll pay off in the long run.
Bill, Juju Smith-Schuster went on IR last week. Obviously, I don't think his production's been what anyone would expect or thought it would be. Just what do you think happened with him this season? How would you describe his season?
Yeah, well, he won't play in this game, so just worry about this game.
What if you have three players starting David, Kyle, and Godchild? Just your thoughts on Godchild and what he's meant to the defense, especially to stop the run.
Yeah, DG's had a good year. Really professional player, prepares well every week, does a real good job understanding blocking schemes who he's playing against, how different teams want to run the ball, even though it might be sort of the same blocks. There's sometimes different subtleties in that, and who the backs are, how they like to run. So he's really good with the other guys that he plays with in terms of, helping them understand how the runs are going to get fit and so forth. So, yeah, he's done a good job. Had a good year.
What have you seen from Michael Wayne this season in terms of progression? And he has expressed that he'd like to come back. Have any talks begun on that front?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into any contract discussions.
What have you seen from him this season just in terms of his growth?
Yeah, started the year at guard, and then we talked after the Las Vegas game, and started playing a tackle, and he's really embraced that, and I think he's had a pretty good year out there. It's not totally new for him. He's been out there before, but he's seen a lot of good players, and done a pretty solid job, and he'll see more this week. So there'll be multiple guys out there that he'll face that are all good. Franklin Myers, McDonald, Johnson, Huff. So we got a lot of good rushers.
How trying has the season been an offensive tackle with 4 guys on injury reserve, moving pieces all over the place there?
Yeah, that's not the way we thought it would happen when we acquired some of the guys at the beginning of the year and then more, but it is what it is.
The fact that this is it, the final week of the season, what's your message been to the team just to keep them locked in with no playoff implications going into this week?
Same as every week. This week's about the Jets. Last week was about Buffalo. Week before that was about Denver.
Bill, after all these years, any love lost for the Jets?
I have a lot of respect for what Coach Salah's done. Put together a pretty good team down there.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
And now, great moments in history.
So NSYNC is playing at the old stadium, and like my wife is going, she's taking my nieces and stuff. The webmaster, who Rick Ames,
yeah,
he took this piece of cardboard and he somehow like brought this wire, and it was like honk if you love NSYNC.
But he rigged it up. He rigged it up in such a way that Paul wouldn't see it when he got in his car, but once he started driving, it would flap down.
So I'm
he's
driving down
Route
one
1 with this thing, and everyone's honking at him.
And I'm meeting Beth at like Papagino's, and like everybody's beeping, and I'm like, what the? I'm driving like 10 miles an hour. What
Hey, S-Man. Hey.
Yeah, exactly.
You got that right.
I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's just too perfect.
Honk if you love
and
NSYNC.
every single person in the building knew about it.
Yeah.
And they all like were what, and they couldn't wait for me to get back because I was going down to meet Beth and my nieces, and I was coming back, and they were like, how'd that go?
That's another great moment from
All right, back here on Patriots Unfiltered, 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket Hotline. Deuce did pull through.
Good job, Deuce.
You got the last 4 Chick-fil-A sandwiches.
Spicy.
Were they cold?
Oh, yeah.
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 It's spicy.
Oh, the locker room opened up. I don't know if you want to run.
Oh, did it already open?
It's up to you, but.
That's unfortunate.
Ryan at Situate writes in, a few days late at this point, but after the Lions-Cowboys games, I tuned into a Lions post-game show from their official team.
That must have been fun.
Oh, tell me more.
YouTube.
Remember
Whoever
when these
was
were
on
our
the show
problems?
was bashing the officials and saying that the refs took away their chance to win the game. Regardless of if he was right and the officials blew the call, I wanted to give you guys credit for the job you do and your professionalism. Other than Paul's vehement hatred toward the officials, no matter what the team is, I have never really
That's
heard...
accurate. That's accurate.
I have never really heard you guys make the refs out to be the reason for a Patriots loss.
Oh, so I don't know if you guys saw, but the league sent out a video yesterday to all teams about what happened.
Reporting.
And they put it on the Lions
Oh, yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
They were like, this is your fault.
That was embarrassing. I saw that.
Yeah, so apparently they slowed it down and frame by frame and showed Dan Skipper like doing something to his chest that would like signify that he was reporting as eligible. And basically they said they tried to pull a fast one on everybody, including the officials, and that's why this was confusing.
Yeah.
I agree with that part of it. I just think
The Zabruta film, you didn't agree with that?
yeah, that was embarrassing.
They had Scorsese directed, I heard.
Ben in Tucson writes in, I don't believe Josh Allen is long for this league. He clearly thinks he's indestructible, and eventually it's going to catch up to him. That final drive of the game, he gets the first down, just slide, and the game is over. Instead, he gets drilled into the ground and comes up lame. He looks to pitch the ball for no reason and takes a shot to the head and loses the ball. Paul, I completely disagree. I would not want him on this team. However, I love your references.
You're out of your mind for that last part. but-
Isn't he like in like year 7? Like how? Like he's not long for this league. He's already been in the league for
He's already
a
got the pension.
decade.
He's already
Like
got a pension.
how much
Yeah.
more do you want him to be in the league for?
Fact check. Scanning.
It was 3rd and 3. You got 4 yards.
Yeah.
You slide there, and you might not get the first down. And I'm not lying. You get credited when you start the slide. That's where the referee spots the ball.
I see.
If they spot it correctly.
Right?
Yes.
And how many times do you look and you say, oh, he easily got the first down? And then, nope, the slide started here before he got it. He got the first down by a yard. Like, if you want to end the game, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the times that I would actually say, that's when I need you to run. That's when I need you to be Superman. You get a first down, the game's over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just feel like
It's the one with the wild reach of the ball on a random third down early in the fourth quarter.
And I get it, like from a fan perspective, but I just feel like Patriots fans, I'm sorry to like put you all together, but I feel like a lot of Patriots fans just want him to fail because he's on the Bills and it's in the division, all that kind of stuff. So everybody always, oh, he's going to get hurt eventually. He's going to get hurt eventually. He has yet to get hurt. We're in year 7. and he's still running around, and he's still lowering his shoulder into people. And yeah, maybe he won't play for 20 years like Brady did, but I'm sure the Bills will take a decade of Josh Allen just fine.
Yeah, who are you guys rooting for? Him and Tua, him versus the Dolphins this weekend. Big matchup.
I'm rooting for Buffalo because that would be good for both of them. And I kind of want someone new. Like I'm going to root against Kansas City more than likely, even though I respect the hell out of Mahomes.
If you want someone new, wouldn't you root for Miami?
Yeah, well, no, but I mean that'll give me two chances for someone new, Buffalo and Miami.
Because what do they both get in if Buffalo?
Yeah,
wins?
I mean Buffalo would be the division champ, but Miami would still be 11-6, and they'd both be 11-6, and I'd like that. Whereas if Buffalo loses, then they need help. They need like Jacksonville to lose or Pittsburgh to lose just to get in.
The fact that Pittsburgh is even in this conversation is wild.
Well, we'll get to our picks tomorrow. Jay in Minnesota writes in,
tough week to pick.
This weekend has me nervous with all the uncertainty with Bill and the team. I also can't wait till the draft. I need to see what we do this year in the offseason. Question, knowing what you know about Bill, what do you think the odds are that Bill is willing to mutually part ways? And if he isn't, how much do you truly think he's worth, especially him being behind the times on the offensive side of the ball? What would you be willing to take for him, or what do you think his trade value is, or do you think the Kraft is willing to pay him out for all he's done for the organization? I was prepared to move on from Bill, but listening the past couple of weeks, I wouldn't be surprised if Kraft runs it back. The trade thing we already talked about.
I'm not expecting any trade compensation for him.
I do wonder if there is a Brady situation. I know it's not completely the same, where instead of trying to go through this whole negotiation with the trade, they do just say, you've earned your freedom.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't want to be here, then
I would applaud that.
Yep. Then
Just
go.
like I applauded it with Brady. And I know a lot of people don't see it that way, but I think that's the right thing to do.
Me too.
Yeah.
I never held it against the Crafts that Tom was, not franchised like he was just any other quarterback, you know?
Right.
No need.
He deserved that.
Absolutely. And Bill does too.
I agree.
Let's see. Gino from New Jersey. Just want to say that even though it'll suck when Bill Belichick leaves, if he comes back this year, I'm having trouble believing he's going to coach up the next quarterback with his mindset. What's to stop him from continuing to build this team the way he did these past 4 years?
Robert Kraft.
That's a concern.
That's
And it's not necessarily personnel-wise.
Yep.
It's coaching-wise. That's my concern. Like, you can give someone else the keys to the shop, but if he's coaching in the way that they coach, and I think I told the story yesterday, it really made me laugh. The first question of the press conference on Monday was about the kickoff return.
Yeah.
And he went into great detail with,
got it wrong, actually.
The Pharaoh Brown and this guy kick out blocks, and Mac Wilson picked that guy. Slater got this guy. Great job by Rager. He broke down what 6 different people did. Then the second question was, Christian Barmore has been playing great, was a little quieter in this game. Did you notice any extra attention that Buffalo may have been given? I'd have to watch the film. That to me symbolized exactly why I want to move on.
Yeah. Well, he knows special teams.
He could give you chapter and verse on a special teams play.
He knows, though. He knows everything. He just doesn't want to talk about it.
What's interesting, though, is if Bill were to come back and they were to draft a quarterback.
You missed my point, but that's okay.
There's a good chance that Bill's not staying through that quarterback's career here, right?
That's
he could very well retire early, and even if he look, you're here as long as you want.
If the quarterback works out, there's no way he's going to be here through his career.
Right.
75 years old.
Jason in Vermont. It is fascinating that with all the people on this planet, the NFL can't find 32 qualified candidates to play quarterback. The drop-off from the best to the worst is significant. Week after week, some pretty poor quarterback performances are seen in the NFL. I wanted to know if you could talk about why there is no better way to rate the quarterback talent coming out of college. Why does it have to be such a crapshoot? There are guys drafted in the first round that end up being terrible and guys drafted in the later rounds that end up being great. Do you know how much psychological testing is involved?
This question gets to the heart of the matter. Like, I think this is what's great about football is that it's so hard. Like, there's no way that you could accurately predict every single guy, and that's what makes it so much fun. That a guy like Brady or Purdy or a top overall pick like Manning, like it runs the gamut. That's what I love about the game, and you can't just put it into a formula and be like, all right, these are the guys we have to select because this is what the formula says, and this is going to be accurate. That's no fun.
I just think a lot of it is so much nature versus nurture. So Brock Purdy works out. You all know how I feel about that. Like that,
leading Pro Bowl veteran.
If
Brock Purdy was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals, no one would be talking about him as a 7th round hit.
Correct.
I totally get your point.
Right. So that's that. You draft these quarterbacks at the top of the first round. They're getting drafted by teams that all suck. So if you're getting drafted, Zach Wilson gets drafted by the Jets, who stink. And then he stinks. That's not surprising. Justin Fields goes to the Bears, who stink, and he stinks. So that a lot of it, I think, is not just about the physical talent or ability of the quarterback.
Mac Jones, I meant.
It's more about the situation that quarterback is getting dropped into. Not always, but I think a lot of the time that ends up being the case, and that's why a Brock Purdy can succeed where a Zach Wilson can, even if Zach Wilson came into the league as a highly touted prospect. It's just all about situation.
Yeah.
Can I also say that, and I don't have all the numbers broken down, but I bet if you did a really in-depth researched draft analysis, that you'd find just as many of the example that you're talking about with the quarterback early and late, just as many Micah Wenyu 6th round pick, Cole Strange 1st round pick.
Yeah.
Guard. I don't think that's just reserved for quarterbacks. They miss sometimes. Sometimes really good players go late in the draft, and sometimes really bad players are picked early in the draft. The bottom line is, more often than not, the guys that go in the 1st round are better players than the guys that go in the 7th round. It's just the way it is, but there are always exceptions.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's just resigned to just quarterbacks only. Yeah. There's 4 quarterbacks that are any good in the league that were drafted after the 1st round was over.
Chad writes in from Atlanta, when did you all realize that the season was over? I gave the nod after Christian Gonzalez left the Cowboys game. So unfortunate that we're at this point, but as Bill says, it is what it is. We're on to the draft. And P.S. still needing an update on my shirt. No rush. Chad in Atlanta.
Matt gets so mad.
What you guys have a
I
game?
think we got us. I said the Saints. I mean,
Saints.
I understand the Cowboys game, but I was willing to say
one mulligan.
What was
couple
the record
big
after
injuries.
Cowboys? 1-4?
1-3.
1-3. I thought they were going to start the season 0-4, and then Aaron Rodgers got hurt, so they were 1-3. So I was like, okay, this is kind of what I expected.
But then
I didn't expect to get shut out by the Saints.
I mean, that says it all to me.
Yeah.
At home.
Yeah, that was a bad performance.
And in hindsight, then also going on the road and losing to the Raiders, who hated their coach.
Yep.
Right. And then also had Brian Hoyer playing quarterback for the entire second half of that game, and they couldn't.
It's another good point. It was the first sign of oh man, we're not even going to beat the backups
Correct.
this year.
Because you could have talked yourself into Washington, Vegas, Colts in Germany, in stacking some wins together to get back into a 500 territory by the second half of the season. The path was there in theory, but then once they lost to the Raiders and they couldn't even beat a Raiders team,
going on the path.
Yeah, there was nothing.
All right, that's going to be it for this edition of Patriots Unfiltered. We have to make way for John Rook in the playbook.
Step inside.
Coming up next, we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Patriots Unfiltered, preceded by Catch 22, and tomorrow we'll do our picks, so we'll see you then.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
World's original podcast.